Greetings, fellow nerds and geeks. Why don't you pull yourself up a chair, grab yourself a beverage, and prepare to enjoy a geek-tastic conversation. Welcome to the Geek Easy.
Welcome back to the Geek Easy podcast. This is episode 58 for January 2nd, 2019. Happy New Year, everybody. I am Pixel Dan Erdley, and I am once again joined by my co-host, Mr. Jonathan Leonard.
Hi, that's me. I'm reading notes.
And hopefully more prepared, Mr. Jaron McCaffrey.
How come he always is like introduced first as your co-host?
Well,
and I'm an also and.
Longevity, dude.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know. It might have been altered after. I just tried to introduce him, and you didn't even respond. So we'll see.
I was reading your notes.
You were following along on the script.
I was. Then I saw my name and it says responds, and I was like, why do I say that? Oh, wait.
Why do I say responds?
It's not a script, bro.
You can't put responds on the teleprompter. Jonathan will say anything. Oh, man. Good
Welcome
times.
back to the Geek Easy podcast, episode 4. Can you believe it, Danny?
Oh, yeah. I cannot believe it. Episode 4?
Already?
Man, we are
Already?
killing it. I
Yeah.
can't believe it.
Yep.
4 episodes in.
Yep.
This is the alternate timeline count.
Which
Which
is
is my favorite now.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, the best timeline.
Yeah, the best timeline. We got to do a community episode.
We haven't we talked about community on
I'm
the show
sure it's
before?
come up. I don't think we've ever done like a focus on it.
I remember.
I don't remember one. I mean, it's been a whole 4 episodes,
We've
but I
only
don't remember
had
doing
4
one.
episodes. How could we have talked about community before? So we have rolled into a new year, which is crazy stuff. So hopefully you guys all had a great holiday season, and you're ready and geared up for a brand new year of, I don't know,
Geeking and
stuff.
easing. And
There's a lot of good movies coming out in
there's a
2019.
lot of good movies coming out in
So
2019.
we should have a lot of things to discuss this year, which is going to be a lot of fun. So we got a lot of topics to discuss today, and I think we're going to go ahead and start things off with Jaron. So you get to go first here.
I get to go first here? So
yeah.
I'm the opening act. So I'm the curtain jerker.
Well, look, the first
it's
match
fine.
is as important as the main event.
Maybe you're just the Goo Goo Dolls to our Counting Crows.
It's true. Maybe so.
Wait, hold the phone. Like
We saw a concert once that was Goo Goo Dolls and Counting Crows, and by some weird math, I have no idea who was promoting this thing, but the Goo Goo Dolls went first. Didn't make any sense at all.
Did you guys just leave after the Goo Goo Dolls?
No, in retrospect, like that's what we do today, given the option again. But at the time, we were like, I mean, we're already here. Let's just check it out, and we had no idea how bad it was going to be.
I like that one Counting Crows song.
Yeah,
They didn't play it.
They didn't.
No, they didn't.
I don't think anyway. I couldn't hear half the stuff. Most of their songs were
So
like,
bad.
you know, they were like, hey, we've got some popular songs, but you probably want to hear this stuff that we've never put on an album before. And then they would just play this random stuff, except they'd play a minute and a half of a song, and then they'd stop. And the lead singer, would just talk for like 5 or 6 minutes. I think he was telling stories. I'm not sure if it was his fault or just the acoustics, because we heard the Goo Goo Dolls fine in all their songs, but we couldn't hear him at all. We had no idea what he was saying, so he was just standing there doing exactly what Jaron was just doing for 5 minutes in the middle of every song that we had never heard before and wasn't that good.
Oh my god,
Yeah, it's so
bad.
I had the exact opposite experience when I saw the Goo Goo Dolls open for the Wallflowers.
Oh,
Because
Wallflowers.
Yeah, it was such a good concert.
was this in like 1995?
No, it was 5 years ago, probably.
They opened for the Wallflowers 5 years ago?
Man. Yeah,
The
man,
Wallflowers
it was
were
good.
doing concerts
Yeah,
5
man,
years ago?
It was so good.
I like
good, yeah.
them. That's fine. That's not what I'm saying. I just didn't know they were still around.
I didn't think they were going to... I had no intention of staying for the Wallflowers. And I watched the Goo Goo Dolls. I loved them. They were awesome. We got to... the Wallflowers came out, and I was like, well... I'll see. I'm not ready to go yet. I'll see. I'm gonna finish this drink. You know, I had a beer, whatever. I'm gonna finish this apple juice, and then we'll get on the road. And stayed for the whole time. They were so good.
That's awesome.
I was blown away. And it was totally that thing where you asked me beforehand, and I was I can remember Wallflower song, one or two. It was all right. Every song I was like, oh, this song. Oh, this song.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
So it was literally the exact opposite
Yes.
of the counting. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I wish I had been at that one.
Yeah, that sounds way
So,
better.
anyways, that's Jaren's topic. Dan, what do you got?
Amazing. That one time
Man.
you guys went to a concert. That's a good opening topic for this Geek podcast.
I think it was fun.
You nailed it, bro. Good job.
Yep,
Good
you're
job.
welcome. You're welcome.
Episode 4.
Actually, John brought that up. Can he forfeit his actual topic?
I'm fine with
You
that.
started it.
I'm fine with that, he says.
All right, so I wanted to talk about reboots and remakes.
All right.
I feel like there's a lot of talk now, and we're starting to hear kind of like our generation is old enough to remember the first time stuff was made now.
Right.
So there's more talk of, oh, why are they remaking this? Why are they remaking that? What's wrong with the original type stuff?
Yeah.
I'm actually a fan of reboots.
Okay.
I think reboots, remake, I think they're a good idea. One, I think is basically just a continuation of like the oral tradition. All of our stories come to us traditionally. Were handed down, told storyteller to storyteller, different storytellers telling it.
Right.
It changed, and then they started writing them down, and now we just have the same thing, but.
Right.
Is what it is,
So
Yeah.
like the stories have all been told. They've just all been told differently, and it's been that way for generations and generations.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
Well, it's
different,
kinda-
and it's fun to see those different
Yeah.
versions
Well, it's
sometimes.
kind of like how you always hear that like most movies with a hero in it is basically just a version of a hero's tale, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like Star Wars is a version of a hero's tale.
Yep.
And all of these movies are basically just like retellings of that exact same story about the rise
Yeah.
of a hero and the trials he has to go on and all that.
I've seen something written where it's like basically every movie ever made is one of like 7 different stories. And I don't know if I could narrow it down quite that like closely, but I can definitely there's a billion movies out there that are based on Shakespeare plays that you don't even know are based on Shakespeare plays because they don't put that in the advertising, so you don't realize it's just
Like The Lion King?
yeah.
Isn't that technically like a Hamlet retelling?
Yeah. I always think back of 10 Things I Hate About You, which was The Taming of the Shrew.
Yep.
But they don't advertise that at all. So if you don't, if nobody ever points it out, or if you don't happen to know those stories that well, you never really think about it. You know.
Yeah.
And so there's almost everything is a version of something that's come before in some way, shape, or form. So the idea of a reboot in and of itself, I don't think is a bad thing. Yeah. We talk all the time about not being those types who are like, oh, they're going to kill my childhood because just by remaking a movie doesn't erase another one from existence.
I do not believe in that.
I always think, if nothing else, if you make a good remake, it'll bring more attention to the original.
Yes.
Because people who never would have found it now have a reason to.
Yes.
I think the problem with remakes, the reason they get a lot of bad press or whatever you want to call it, is because a lot of times when they're big Hollywood remakes especially, they're not necessarily done for as passion projects.
Right.
It's not always people who really love this story and have their own vision and want to do it again.
Yep.
It's people who know that this story made money, so they're just going to slap its name on something else and throw it out there.
Yes.
So the problem is there are a lot of really cheap, poorly made ones, and that gets all the recognition from it. But every once in a while you get some really great new versions of things that pop out. And, you know, it, like you said, it's an important part of the storytelling process.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really had like a strong opinion one way or the other on reboots and stuff. Like, I'm not that person that's like, oh, they're out of ideas when I see a reboot. But there's definitely been a lot of times where I'm like, why are we even rebooting this? You know, so like I've gone both ways with it. So I don't have a strong lean one way or the other. There's plenty of reboots that I've enjoyed. Totally fine with them. I do tend to feel like I appreciate the movies when they're more like spiritual successors, not necessarily sequels, but when they don't totally ignore what came before it or could almost fit in the same universe. I get kind of excited about movies that are like that, more so than a straight up reboot a lot of times. But I mean, really, it just depends on how well the movie's done and how well it's made and if I enjoyed it or not. So I'm willing to give a lot of things a chance, but there's been plenty of things that's been announced that I've immediately just gone, why? Who asked for this? Why do we need? You know, so I've been there. I've been on both sides of this.
So that's a perfect reason why I brought this up.
Okay.
And I will say, like, the first thing I want to say, when you talk about being a spiritual successor, I feel like that's what a good remake is anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. You mentioned Jumanji.
I mentioned Jumanji.
And how it's kind of a sequel, but it's also not.
Yes,
okay?
exactly. Yes.
So I feel like that attitude is also right for any sequel or any remake. I mean, for any remake, it's more of a spiritual, because you got to add something.
Yeah.
Okay?
So Jumanji did its own thing, right?
Right.
But and they made it as a movie that like a whole new generation that don't even know the old movie exists could still watch it and enjoy it and not feel lost. But for all of us who knew about that previous movie, this movie kind of acknowledges that stuff still very much could have happened before this movie.
Right.
It's like it's a spiritual successor. It's not straight up a sequel, but it's like it feels like an extension of that other movie, and it's doing its own thing.
Yeah.
And I thought it was super fun.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great movie.
So the whole thing that got me thinking about all this, and I thought it'd be a fun topic to discuss, because I saw 2 trailers over the past Christmas weeks. I've seen a lot of movies. Well, I've seen a few movies a lot of times, but I saw 2 trailers that made me, and they're both remakes, that got my head spinning, because one I think is dumb and one I think looks like a good idea.
All right.
Okay, so the trailers are The New Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
And a movie called What Men Want.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So the Pet Cemetery trailer looks like from watching it, it looks pretty much like a shot-for-shot remake of the original one, of the original movie.
That's definitely the way the trailer makes it feel. Well, like that trailer is straight up like, hey, you guys remember Pet Cemetery? You guys remember everything about that movie?
We're doing it again.
Here it is, all in the trailer.
Right.
All of it.
Yep.
Everything you remember about that movie, we put it in this trailer so that you know exactly what we're doing here.
Yep.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
And I'm probably going to see it, but I think it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I don't need more Pet Cemetery.
See that?
Unless there's something added to it. And maybe I'll go and see it and they'll blow my mind and there will be all kinds of stuff added to it, because I love the new Evil Dead. The Evil Dead remake.
Yeah.
I think is the one of
probably
the best remake I've ever seen.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe the Pet Cemetery will blow my mind the way it did. But doesn't look like it.
It sounds like, if that's actually what they're doing, it's very reminiscent of that mid-90s Psycho they did, when they basically they advertised it as a shot-for-shot remake. That was their whole point. And that's one of the remakes I will say made no sense to me.
Right.
Because it'd be one thing doing it as an homage. I guess I'm fine with that conceptually, but you're literally taking one of the masters of filmmaking, one of his most well-known movies, and just doing it again.
Yep.
And so you're basically flat out saying, it was already perfected,
right?
But here are people who, even if they're very talented, probably self-admittedly would tell you they aren't as good as the people who did the first one, but are just doing it a second time.
Yeah.
There's nothing added to that. I don't know why, from a creative standpoint, I don't know why they wanted to do it. From a money standpoint, I don't know why they thought it was a good idea. That one is just completely bonkers to me. And if that's what they're doing with Pet Cemetery also...
Well, if you think it'll
get the logic.
If you think it'll replay, why wouldn't you re-release it?
Yeah.
Special back in theaters.
Yeah.
They did that with the Star Treks or the Star Wars.
For
So
sure.
why couldn't you do that?
Yeah.
So if you think Pet Cemetery will play well again.
Yeah. Now I will say with Pet Cemetery, at least it's not like it isn't already the crown jewel of its genre. So you could go, well, we could just do it again, but better. I can see the logic there, at least. I doubt it, but at least there's a thought process there. But none of those guys could have been sitting around going, you know what Hitchcock did wrong here? Let's go fix it.
Dude, I would say that was the seminal work of Denise Crosby. I mean, who else how else would we remember her if not for Pet Cemetery?
Pet Sematary is a movie that I feel like is already kind of one of those perfect movies. We joke about it being not like a crown jewel or something spectacular, but for what it is, that movie's kind of already like a terrifying, very creepy movie that has that reputation.
Right.
I don't really see the benefit of remaking a movie that already kind of has that going for it. You know what I mean? And I mean, you might be right. Maybe it will. Maybe it will be amazing. Maybe they can add something to it. But from watching that trailer,
well, if it's amazing, I will be wrong.
Well, okay, maybe you're wrong. But
I'll have some counterpoints, but I want to wait till I get to my list.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll blow my whole list.
I'm just, that trailer literally is going, here's that movie you remember, but with a modern day setting. Because like that trailer just like shows everything, like all of the big points that were kind of like surprises in the original movie. That trailer's like doing it all to show you exactly what the movie is, and it's just like, what's the point of seeing this movie other than just seeing new people in these roles of this movie we've already seen? And that right there is kind of what makes me just not interested to even watch it. Now my line of thinking here for why they're doing it has to be the good old Hollywood thing of, well, they just redid it and it was really successful. And I'm guessing that might have had something to do with this getting greenlit.
I don't know how I didn't put that together.
Well, because...
But yeah, I mean, clearly that's just the wave of Stephen King that's going to be coming now.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I think. Because from the moment that it started getting good press when they were talking about its release, they probably immediately started greenlighting other Stephen King movies that they had the rights to that could be remade. And this is just going to be the first of this wave.
And that's where the bad name for the reboots comes in.
Yes, exactly.
They just start going green. You know, if it's at least 90 pages, greenlight it.
Yep.
Right.
You know?
Right. And so this just reminded me of another one. Did you even see this?
I have not.
So they're rebooting Child's Play 2.
Child's Play 2?
No, not Child's Play also.
Oh, okay.
Child's Play also.
Well, that's good because the Chuckies are terrible.
So that's the thing. They've made a billion of those movies, right? Where they just keep doing it. And now they've decided, well, let's make a brand new Child's Play movie. And they've altered some stuff with it. And I don't even remember what it is now. But they're basically making it a modern day kind of retelling of the Killer Doll story. But I don't think he's... I need to actually look at it up. So, John, do you have anything that you want to add to this while I'm reading this real quick?
Well, let me go ahead and talk about what men want.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the one, I saw that trailer, and I thought that trailer seemed like a really good idea.
Okay.
Because we had, so you can say, and maybe this one's going to be more of like the spiritual successor, like you were talking about, but it's basically a remake of What Women Want. Where we've got Taraji Henson is the star, and she acquires the power to hear what men really think. So, you know, and it basically just went through a bunch of scenes. In the trailer, it's just a bunch of scenes that are kind of like scenes from What Women Want, where something's happening, and she hears what a dude is really thinking, and responds.
Right,
basically, right?
Yes.
I think that's a good idea because I thought What Women Want were fun. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, I
remember thinking it was great at the time,
right? You know, but in the remake, whether it's good or not, the idea of remaking that movie, there's a whole nother side to that story. So there's a whole nother perspective. There's a whole nother story to tell, and you can take all the elements and put them in and do something completely different with all the same elements.
I was going to say, that's one you could do 10 different times and they'd all be completely different movies.
Yeah.
You know, and so conceptually, that's a great idea.
Right.
You know, and then at that point, it's just a matter of making it a pretty good movie, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that too. That this is definitely a good way to do a reboot because it almost feels like this is the same kind of thing. It's like not technically a sequel, but it's still like a spiritual successor to the original one because it's the same idea but flipped around backwards. It's in the reverse now. So there's new situations you can get into, new dynamic to the whole situation, and the trailer was funny. Like I laughed at the trailers, so yeah, I think that would be a fun idea as well.
So the other thing the other reason this all got me thinking, and what I thought would actually be fun to talk about, is I have a handful of movies that I really want to see remade.
Okay.
And so I thought we could talk about maybe some movies that we thought could do with like the reboot or the remake or a spiritual successor type, whatever.
Who's starting?
John, you came in with
My
a list,
start?
so I feel like you should start since you've got a list.
All right, you go with the
problem.
list.
And it's a variety of reasons, and I got a couple of honorable mentions too that I'll throw in. So I've kind of split it up by reasoning more than anything.
Yep.
And I don't have a specific order for them. I think this was actually my number one, but I'm going to throw it out first because it's the cheap one. It's the easy one.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the entire DC universe. that they're running
Isn't
right
that
now.
kind of happening?
Yeah, like sort of, except not. It doesn't seem like the news is all mixed up. I don't know. So maybe it's in the midst.
The entire DC.
You know, but like what they're, you know, we've seen with Spider-Mans in the last 15 years. You know, the Raimi ones came out. They were as comic centered as they could be at the time. They were great. Everybody loved them. Then Sony decided to go darker because that was the trend, and I thought they were still pretty good, but they obviously were not what they were looking for.
Yeah.
And now they've just full on embraced the Marvel style by actually being a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And it's working fine again. And so I don't think there's any precedent that says you can't make a brand new Superman movie without waiting a certain period of time. So I'm hoping it's not 20 years like it was.
Yeah.
You know. Once, but what they've been experimenting with isn't working to the way they wanted it to. They're proving that by the new movies they're making, because you have a fun Wonder Woman movie now and a fun Aquaman movie now, and I don't know how they break that mold with characters who have already interfaced with the others and spin it back into good Superman and good Batman movies without just sort of breaking and restarting. And I'm willing to sacrifice all the things I like to see it all done well again. So I don't know if that's the way you envision the list going. That's why I threw it out first.
That's
you know?
fine. Yeah.
But and it's also the thing we harp on all the time.
I've thought that kind of the DC's key, like if DC wanted to rival Marvel, instead of trying to do the interconnected cinematic universe, they need to like just embrace sort of a reboot culture, and every movie can be something different. Mm-hmm. You know, there's so many good storylines out there that aren't, you know, good stories and comic books, whatever, that aren't like connected.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they should just pick one of those. You know, all right, this year we're doing these three, and make those, and you can book.
Yeah.
You know, you can get different people. You know, and then we, you know, like we get to see, you know, one where, obviously not, but you know, for example, like, you know, oh, this is the one with Tom Hanks Superman, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whoever, like, and you know, and then next year we get, oh, this one, you know, they're doing this new one. Nicolas Cage is going to be Superman.
Yep.
Obviously not those two, but
they're
the only names that come to mind. You know?
Yeah. And I would totally embrace that.
Right.
I think it'd be a good way to kind of do. If they're trying to save face and not just do what Marvel's doing, but do their own thing, but they can still spin around and actually make fun movies that are interesting and you know, bring you into the real characters that you want to see. And at that point, then you can do the, you know, Superman movies that play like Batman movies, because it's not the beginning of your universe. It's just this thing you tried.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Well, good news, guys. They're already doing it. There's 3 Joker movies in production.
Oh, hey. Great. That's exactly what I was hoping for.
So, surprise!
Whee!
They're doing it. Yay!
Okay, moving up my list, and this is another one that is technically already in development at some stage, so it's not like it's less of a wish and more of a I'm looking forward to.
Yep.
Because they're supposed to be remaking Big Trouble in Little China with The Rock.
Yep.
And I'm real excited to see what they do with that.
See, and that's one of the ones that the internet poo-pooed when it got
well,
announced.
I know it did, but that's what the internet does, man.
Well, that's
You know, it's one where I've heard. I got a lot of faith in The Rock. I don't think every movie he's done has been great by any means, but he's an entertaining dude, and he's got an idea of what he's doing. And he's going to be attached to some stinkers, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt until I see it.
Yep.
I've also seen some kind of mixed messaging about it being an actual just straight-up remake versus one of those spiritual successors, because the most recent thing I heard, which was probably at least a year ago, and I think it was even from The Rock, basically saying we're not trying to redo everything that was done, because everything that was done was perfect. We're just trying to sort of extend it. But they won't say how or why.
Right.
And so they've got my $10 already.
Which sounds like the right mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That'd be perfect. Moving up the list, and here's where I'll start throwing some honorable mention out. I'm going to put Goonies down.
Okay.
whoa, hey.
Because, I mean, I think that is a pretty well perfect movie.
Shocked that hasn't been done yet.
I know. I think
Now
there's a
that you
whole
say
generation
that,
like
that's so.
I've started talking to my kids about watching it. We just haven't taken the time
Yeah.
to. But I'm really excited to get them kind of into that mindset, and it made me think like, why isn't there more? And that's why the honorable mention is stuff like, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing another Monster Squad or any of those like, you know. Those very like adolescent movies from when we were younger.
Yeah.
They probably have those nowadays for kids that are of that same age that we were. We just don't recognize them because we're not looking for them or anything like that. But they're not. There's not a ton of them out there that I can think of off the top of my head that are remakes or redos. It feels like there's a whole genre there that hasn't really been tapped yet. Now, the second they make a Goonies and the second it makes $1, all of those other ones
will happen.
will come
That's
next,
true.
and they'll probably be bad.
Well, it'd be cool with the Monster Squad if they use like instead of the Universal monsters, if they use some of the new one. Like New Line owns Freddy and Jason and several of
Dang,
them. You know, so like if
Oh,
they
man.
did a Monster Squad with like the
Yeah.
slasher era,
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
that'd be
man.
something like that.
That would
we got
be so
to get to
fun.
writing.
That would be so fun.
Dude, we got to turn that in a month. I don't know who you turn scripts into, but we got to find them and call them.
Danny, can you take our script?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I'll get on it.
We got to get Danny a script.
Yeah, we do. That is brilliant.
That's a good idea.
I want to knock Goonies off and put Monster Squad in the spot. All right, then
Okay.
number 2 or whatever it would be
whatever.
then of my list going up would be another one that I absolutely love but would like to see with new technology, and that is the Gremlins movies. I would like to see
That's been
done
talked
again.
about too.
Yeah,
That's
it's
another
one of those
that
that's always kind of
Yeah.
in there, you know. Beetlejuice is another one that's kind of the
Beetlejuice,
same mindset. I'd like
yeah.
to see it with today's technology,
Yeah.
and it's been talked about
They keep
forever.
talking about that sequel, like,
Yeah.
like bringing Keaton back and everything
Yeah,
for that.
yeah, which would be awesome. But the
be
Gremlins
good.
is the one where I keep thinking, and I think of the Evil Dead remake when I think of that. Because Gremlins could be one that if you just did that story again,
Yeah.
but with modern technology, you could make it really fun, you could make it really nostalgic, it could be cool. But that's one where you could also strip it back down to the bare bones like the Evil
make
Dead
it
did.
super dark. And
Yeah, you know,
That could be a straight up horror.
because the
movie.
Evil,
for
the
sure.
Evil Dead basically, like, it's like they ignored that the first movie ever existed and went back to, like, the original script and went, like, what would it look like if we did this today? Because it was supposed to not be, it was supposed to be dark and scary and weird, but they had no money. It was just a bunch of friends in the woods with a camera.
Yeah.
So it came off as really campy. And the remake went back and went, okay, we do have money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's do this how it could have been.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Gremlins wasn't what was envisioned in the first place, but that's one where you could pull that back conceptually and do almost anything
Well,
with
yeah,
it,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
could make some really cool stuff
Well,
out
the
of
first
that.
Gremlins was supposed to be kind of more on the scary side because it
Yeah.
wasn't until the second one that they went full
Oh yeah,
on
the second
camp.
one's when they went
Yeah.
bananas,
The
and the
first-
first one is kind of scary to
Yeah.
that level, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But you could make it zany, you could make it full dark, you could do the hybrid thing. There's a lot of directions you could go, and if you have somebody who's really passionate about their vision for it, I'd like to see that done. And then my number one is the type of movie that you see and you go, you know, I feel like I liked where they were going with this, but they just did not get there. And that category, I bet you I've seen 10 of those in the last 10 years easy. Probably 10 in the last 5. The problem is, once you have that thought, they're very forgettable movies. You know?
Okay.
So I can't think of a ton of them. Gamer popped into my head.
Okay.
Because that's one that I thought was a cool concept, but a really bad movie. You know? But they could have done something. Like, I like Gerard Butler, but it just didn't play that well for me. But the one that really I would love to see is actually a favorite of mine, but I know they could have done a ton more with it, and that's Event Horizon. Because that is one where you can even read some of the history on that. Like, that movie was completely different conceptually and through a lot of the processing phase. They actually shot a ton more footage of it that was supposed to be even darker than it ended up being.
Right.
A lot longer, but a lot more fully realized. And unfortunately, they didn't save any of that footage, so there will never be a director's cut or anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
But the idea of, again, taking, you know, more modern effects and going back to the original vision of that and actually giving us the one that they tried to film and get put together and just couldn't do, I would really like to see. Because I'm a big fan of that movie as it is, and it's because I feel that vision was so powerful that even though the movie clearly fell short of its mark, it was still super entertaining to me, and I'd really like to see it done, with a budget and with the just the full vision going into it. So that's my 5 or 8.
Awesome.
That's fun.
Yep.
Okay, so I got one decent one, I think. It's the only one I'm gonna throw out, but I think it would be a lot of fun because it's I obviously the things that I like to sit there too and think about the things that would be kind of cool to see. Like obviously I'd like to see them try Turtles again.
Okay.
Because these last two were just kind of like, they were what they were.
Right.
Except I also feel like that the very first Turtles movie from '90 is like as perfect as you're going to get for a Ninja Turtles movie. So I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I need, but like I want to see more good Turtles movies to keep the franchise going.
Yep.
And I'll probably regret this because my stance has been on this the whole time. But man, I would love a good He-Man movie. I would really love a good.
If you were only going to throw one out and it wasn't that, I was going to be mad.
But I've got a different one. Okay, I've got one. The Last Starfighter.
Ooh.
The whole thing with the arcade machine and just like the test for him to be a good pilot. Look at where video games are now.
Oh, yeah.
And how that could totally play into like the whole finding, the hero to come save this whole war going on.
It could even be a super weird app.
Yeah,
have you seen this app?
Yeah, totally. You could do an app thing.
That app's not on my phone.
Yeah, see? I think that could be a ton of fun.
Yeah,
I loved The Last Starfighter.
That could be crazy cool. Every time I think of that movie, I think of the short-lived Clerks animated series and the spoof they did on that.
Series was ridiculous.
Where Randall was just really good at building pyramids, so they made him actually go build pyramids. So I hope your version of the reboot's better.
Okay.
So your one is better than one that makes my list, but it's the same type of thing.
Okay.
So I'll just go ahead and start my list because I really want to see a War Games remake.
Okay, War Games. Yeah.
The technology is so different, and so our relationship to technology is so different.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you could basically just recycle that plot. But it's going to be totally different through the lens of like our modern relationship with technology and stuff. So like along the same lines, and along those lines, I'm going to jump to my holy grail, and then I'll talk about some other ones because my holy grail is a Terminator remake.
And that's, really?
Like actually, not the soft reboot that they keep doing. Really.
Well, the Genesis was a pretty hard reboot when you get down to it, but yes, not the sequels where they keep changing because, man, the first Terminators for the 1 and 2, which are the standard. Okay, I like 3. I will make an argument for Salvation, and I mean Genesis.
I like Genesis.
I don't dislike Genesis.
I like Genesis more than Salvation.
Oh, no way, not me.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they're so informed by like a 1980s perspective of technology.
Okay.
What if they launch the missiles and then we've got, I mean shoot, it's already, the original Judgment Day was 97.
Yeah.
We're 30 years past that? 20? 30?
20.
I don't do math. 20 years past that? And I think that's the mistake they're making. I mean, we're about to get another one with Sarah Connor again, and and Linda Hamilton's coming back. I'm super excited for it. I'm gonna see it, all of it, and but I think that's a mistake. I don't think it's going to be good. I don't think it's going to extend the franchise or reliven the franchise the way they want it to, because the franchise needs to be overhauled. Our relationship to technology is so different, and I think even like the idea of what if the machines take over doesn't work now because I carry the machine in my pocket. We've got 3 of the machines on the table right now. You know what I mean? It's so different, and the way the machines would take over would not be to launch nuclear missiles and let us wipe ourselves out now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're taking over right now. You know what I mean? So, like, Terminator needs to be a logical progression from where we're at now, and I think that's why it needs a full top-down overhaul.
Yeah, I'm down.
I'm down. Yeah, that's a cool way to look at that too. It's not something I had even really considered. But
There's so many things I could tell you about Terminator that you've never even considered.
Well, that's been the fun of coming up with this list. Is like not only what, but why. You know? That's what like I kind of tried to make sure I had different reasons for what I wanted out of some of this stuff, and it's just back and re-examining all these things we love and figuring out what could have been kind of different. So you got more going.
Yeah, I got more. So I want to see a Lost Boys remake.
Okay.
Where the Lost Boys are millennials. I think that'd be super. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Like if someone our age, our generation, or just a little older than us remade Lost Boys, but with like millennials. I think that'd be. I'd enjoy it. But also Lost Boys, great movie. So 80s. So dated. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't mind seeing that one remade and. Man, I mean, Twilight changed vampires, so if you make them, if we make them monsters again, I think would probably be a market for that and some value in using Lost Boys to do that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So the next one, which kind of segues into 2, and then I'm done. Touch of Evil, which is an Orson Welles movie that kind of gets overshadowed because Orson Welles made Citizen Kane, and that's all anybody knows. But he made a bunch of great movies.
That's the one with
Charlton Heston.
Yeah, Charlton Heston, right? Yep.
So, Touch of Evil is this like crime drama where Charlton Heston plays a Mexican.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So one of the main reasons I think they should remake Touch of Evil is 1, because it's a fantastic movie, but 2, because we have so many great Latin actors now.
Yeah.
Like, Touch of Evil with Jimmy Smits instead of Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be amazing, and like they're good actors, there's good actors to choose from that are actual Latins, Latinos. I don't know what I'm supposed to call them. So hopefully I didn't offend anybody. But I think that'd be great. If you got somebody, I mean, it's such a good. It's just a crime thriller. If you got somebody like Martin Scorsese to make it, and because Orson Welles plays Detective Quinlan, who is like the bad guy in the movie.
Yeah.
If Martin Scorsese's making it, and he gets De Niro or. One of his it could be.
There's a lot of star power.
Yeah, there's a lot of star power you could get into. I think we'll get into
one
this.
Of those great noir flicks.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Which brings me to my segues into my final, because I just want to see the whole noir genre rebooted. Remade.
Let's say as soon as you said Touch of Evil, I went, man, my entire list should have just been every movie that was made in the 50s.
Yeah, I mean they were so good, and like we have crime dramas now that you could technically consider the progression of noir, but they are not like those old ones.
Yeah.
And people talk about Quentin Tarantino's dialogue. No, his dialogue is garbage. Okay, go back and watch The Big Chill. Go back and watch The Maltese Falcon.
Oh man,
those movies are dialogue, and they're saying something. Quentin Tarantino, I mean, he writes a few funny lines and people cuss and okay, great. But man, you want to see like snappy back and forth dialogue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm into.
That's what I every time I watch one of those old movies, and again, not all of these guys did perfect every time they did it, but like Jimmy Stewart or Cary Grant, I could watch those guys read the phone book.
Yeah.
And I'd be entertained by it, just because they had that way about them, and you don't get a lot of vehicles to display that anymore. I'm not saying there's nobody in Hollywood who does that anymore, because sometimes there are. That's one of the things I love so much about Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and then the Lady Killers, I think, was the Coen's follow-up to that. Is both of those movies, to me, are defining roles for not just George Clooney and Tom Hanks, but even their supporting cast. But the one that stands out amongst all of that to me was Tom Hanks, because just watching him basically play Colonel Sanders for that whole weird crime, and it was it wasn't noir exactly, but it was like the storyline would have fit right into that style. It was just kind of over the top noir, basically. But just watching those guys interact with the rest of the cast, I barely cared what was going on in the actual movie. Right. It was just fun to see.
Yeah.
And so I'd really like to see more, if they could go back and redo some of those older movies that were driven by that.
Yep.
I think we've got a lot of talent in Hollywood that could carry that today. That's just not how movies are really made right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would be awesome to see some of those done in that style.
Yep.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah, that's a good topic, man. That's fantastic.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah, totally. All right, well, let's go ahead and roll that into what I wanted to discuss today because I think there's a great segue here for this.
Segue man.
Yep,
Segue
there
man.
we go. The new Bumblebee.
Speak easy.
movie.
Copyright. TM. CR.
Oh,
Sorry,
cool.
go ahead. Yep.
We got. I like it. We're writing jingles and stuff now. So the new Bumblebee movie, the new Transformers movie. I had a chance to see it. You saw it, right,
I saw
John?
it. Yep.
You have not seen it
did
yet,
not,
right, John?
sorry.
We're gonna talk about it a little bit.
No, yeah, go,
good
yeah.
with that?
You want to leave?
away.
You want to leave the room?
There will be some spoilers as
Yeah.
we're discussing this, but
Spoilers ahead.
If you guys can spoil the fifth or the sixth Transformers movie more than the fourth and fifth did,
No
I
joke.
think the internet will be impressed.
No joke.
It's a cheap joke. I haven't
But
seen 4 or 5
bum.
either, but it's a good joke.
Nice.
Quality.
That's a good
Quality.
joke. I want to lead off with this whole reboot discussion with Bumblebee because the thing about Bumblebee is like when it was first announced, it was kind of initially announced as just a prequel. This is just a prequel to the Michael Bay movies that we've already seen. And then it seems like somewhere along the line that dialogue changed and it was no longer just a prequel. It was actually kind of a soft reboot of the franchise and they were going to start a brand new series of Transformers movies based off of this one.
Well, that's because somebody watched last night and went, "Oh no,
Yeah.
this is what we've been really
Yeah.
this is what we've been doing."
Well, and then we start seeing those trailers started coming out, and we started seeing how all of a sudden everybody looks like they're ripped straight out of the original cartoon series, and we were finally starting to see what we wanted to see in a Transformers movie by seeing the cartoons come to life, kind of a thing. So it started to look like it straight up wasn't a prequel anymore; it was a soft reboot. Now that I've seen the movie, here's my stance.
Okay,
this is still a prequel. I feel like it's a prequel. Maybe it's a prequel that is also a soft reboot so that they can make new Transformers movies. But this movie straight up sets everything up and ends the movie so it could coast right into him meeting Sam.
Okay.
It does. And there you go. Sorry, big old spoiler right there for the ending of your movie. I still feel like this is a prequel movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I think what happened though too is that because Michael Bay has said that he's not doing anymore, right? So last night was supposed to be. I mean that
was listed as a producer on this one.
Well,
but
yeah.
he wasn't
he'll
the
be
director or
produced.
anything.
Well, I know he didn't direct this one.
Yeah.
But I've heard that he even before, I even remember kind of hearing when he was doing Last Night. Yeah.
Okay,
he made Last Night.
Definitely said he was done after 3, and then definitely did 4, and I couldn't remember if he had done 5
Well, I mean,
so.
you back a dump truck of money up to anybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not arguing that he's not done. I'm just saying
that's
we keep hearing that song. Eventually, it'll definitely be true. But.
Right. Well, it definitely struck me a little bit as it lives in both places.
And I feel that. I definitely feel like they made this movie with the intent that now we can just tell new stories off of this.
Yeah.
And if we still wanted it to count in the same universe, it's not necessarily going to mess up that other stuff.
For sure.
Unless they decide to just go full on.
Here's the one thing I'll point out that I think indicates it's not a prequel, not a straight prequel, or that indicates they intend to do other stuff. Because in The Last Night, they try to be like, oh, Bumblebee was in World War II. Oh, Bumblebee's been here since King Arthur.
Stuff.
And this movie, clearly, he gets there at the beginning of the movie.
Yes, okay,
in
you're right.
the 80s.
And you're right.
So that's the only thing.
But they all, in this movie, they explained why he uses the radio to talk.
Yep.
They set that entire thing up in this.
Okay, but I'm upset about that. Anyway, go ahead. Do it.
At the very end of the movie, he scanned that Camaro and turned into a Camaro, which is the form he was in when Sam found him, that older Camaro. Because remember, then he turned into the modern Camaro later.
Yes.
He was an older Camaro. So he scans this 80s whatever Camaro at the end of the movie after being a Beetle for the whole movie, which was awesome. They threw us a bone and made him a Beetle this time.
Yeah. She was also mad. She was also mad about.
She got mad. She's like, "You mean you could have done this? You could have been a Camaro the whole time." That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But she wanted the Beetle. She was excited about it in the trailer.
She was. Yeah. She was just excited to have a car.
Right. You got to see the movie, John.
yeah.
You'd
I would like
to
understand.
see the movie.
Then you'd understand.
So like they explained a lot of that stuff away, and like, but all.
It feels like a movie that was made to be a sequel. Or to be a prequel,
yeah.
and then like at the 11th hour,
Yes.
they were like, okay, this is going to be its own soft reboot, and
Yeah.
they went, oh, thank God, okay, let's change this, let's change that.
Yeah,
I want to do this
and
instead. Let's make, you know what I mean?
I would totally agree with that.
Yeah,
like that,
that's
and I would
what it
not
felt
be
like to
shocked.
me.
I would not be shocked if that's exactly the way it all went
Right.
down.
Yep.
Especially because when they first announced this movie, that's like they were like, it's a prequel. We're doing a Transformers prequel, and everybody was like, what? Why? Why are you still doing this to us? You know, like that was kind of everybody's reaction. So maybe that's why they changed course at that point.
How much do the other robots really like participate? When I was never excited about this movie until the previews came about, because it actually looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But when they announced it and everything, like I've never had a problem with Bumblebee, but I've never cared about him. Even when they tried to make him the main focus of the first movie, it never connected with me. I care way more about Optimus and some of the bad guys and all of that stuff. So I always wondered like how much of this is just Bumblebee and how much is
90% is just Bumblebee.
Okay.
This movie is Bumblebee and two random bad guys that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not Starscream?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Did they even give them names?
They didn't even give him names. He definitely kills Starscream in the beginning.
I don't think that was Starscream either.
Well, except that then they're like, oh, let's not say his name. That wasn't Starscream.
It's just another jet.
Dude, watch.
Well, there were a bunch of jets.
There were, well, so the bad guys all have flying forms and car forms.
Yeah, they're triple changers. Yeah, they're triple changers. Yep.
He totally, that robot, they're going to say it's not Starscream because they want Starscream in the other ones. That was Starscream.
You think that was supposed to be him?
It was a red jet. When he transformed, he had the big red shoulder pads. For the movie, okay, it wasn't Starscream. When they were scripting that, when they were designing that robot, that robot was Starscream.
I wouldn't be surprised.
You know, somebody went, hey, we can't kill Starscream in the first 5 minutes of this prequel movie.
So the movie opens on the war on Cybertron. And this segment is the best Transformers movie I have ever seen. Like that's all I need in a Transformers movie. That's what I want right there.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, all the Transformers are in it. They're all instantly recognizable. They look like their 80s counterparts. I mean, on the screen, you see RC and Brawl and Wheeljack and Optimus is running around. And then all of a sudden, the Decepticons come busting in, and you've got Shockwave, and you've got Soundwave, and you've got Starscream. And like, they're all there, and it's amazing.
I remember seeing Soundwave in the trailer and totally marking out.
And he shoots Ravage out of his chest, and he calls him Ravage. And it's just like... It's incredible, dude.
That's
like,
awesome.
Like you get so amped up watching it. It lasts 5 minutes, and then the entire movie is just this really kind of slow slog of Bumblebee hanging out with that chick. And you know, look, I will say this: it's a fine movie. It's okay. It is not amazing. I didn't think. I loved all the Cybertron stuff. When I see that, I go, okay, now give me that as a Transformers movie.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Because I feel like we're still, while they improved some things, they finally, like, they made them look great, all this stuff. They gave us the cartoon Transformers we wanted to see. But their problem still lies on they're making movies about humans that happen to have robots in the movie.
Yeah.
Rather than making a movie about these robots where the humans are there, but, like, it's about the robots.
Yeah.
That's where our problem is still with these movies, I feel like. I don't know.
So I would 100% agree. I agree this movie is like the promise of what a Transformers movie could be.
Yeah.
And I think that excites people because it's basically Herbie the Love Bug if sometimes Herbie stood up and walked like a man.
Dude, oh my God, no joke.
Okay, so I was bored through most of this movie.
It was
the few things I noticed, I was not as excited about like, I thought it was great that we saw the robots and they looked like they did in the old cartoon. That's cool. That didn't get me as excited as the fact that the robot design looked so much better. I could tell what was happening when they fought.
Yes.
Okay, like,
so much.
You know,
they didn't look like big piles of junk anymore.
Right.
You know, like
yeah. The Michael Bay movies, they look like, you know, like in a cartoon when two people are fighting and it's just a dust cloud with like hands like this coming out.
Yep.
That's how I always felt watching the Michael Bay Transformers fight.
Sure.
This
And
looks
again,
like two big robots fighting.
I really like 1 and I really like 3.
I really like 1 and I'm fine with 3.
You know,
I'm kind of the same. I liked 1.
I should specify I like 1
rest.
a lot more than I like 3, but I was happy with 3. I enjoyed 3 quite a bit. But yeah, for sure, like in all of those movies, every time the action would start, I would totally check out because it's like they went, okay, we've got $1 billion and 18 minutes to make this movie. So let's just get it done.
Right.
And they just threw drawings in, mixed them around for a while, and then put them on screen.
Yep.
And so the idea that you can actually see a robot fight is already pretty enticing.
Yeah, totally.
The problem with them always making movies about people, I don't know where this problem comes from, except I'd say it's got to be a similar problem to what's wrong with the DC EU, right? Because those movies always feel like somebody's looking at their comic book movie script and they're like, okay, we got to make this comic book movie. How do we fix it so it works as a
grounded
movie?
In reality,
right? You know, and that's what they're doing with, because they look at these Transformer movies and they're like, well, this comes from stuff that was made to sell toys to kids, so nobody's going to connect with these with the robots. We gotta have something grounded for everybody to connect with, and then the robot stuff can just happen around them.
Which is hilarious, because many of us were taught emotion the minute Optimus Prime died. That's when we found out what feelings were.
Yeah, right?
But that is totally the mentality of them going, nobody's going to care about a robot.
Right.
Well, it just reeks of old Hollywood, like, not getting it, right? And it's the same thing we complain about with the DC movies. And it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, maybe that was the way you guys thought you had to sell a Transformers movie way back when you did the first one. But now we live in a world where the Marvel Cinematic Universe exists and is successful as it is. Can you guys all just get off it at this point and, like, give us friggin' cartoons and comics as movies?
It's hilarious to me that, I mean, how many studios have now tried to copy that, and every single one of them, like people whose livelihood, whose jobs are making and understanding movies, and nobody can get one out of the gate.
Well, because the people who give the money, their job is not making and understanding movies. You know, and you got to appease them. At least that's the way it seems to me.
Well, yeah,
because
this has not been the fact for a long time.
You know what was, you know, nobody looked at the Alien script and went, okay, now how do we ground this in reality? One of the biggest movies of all time. You know, nobody what was grounded about Blade Runner? One of the biggest movies of all time. You know what I mean? Star Wars. You know, what was grounded about? I mean, you can say, okay, well, Luke's a farm boy. People can appeal to. He's a farm boy for five minutes, and then he's a magician's apprentice with a laser sword. Like, come on, what are we doing here? You know?
Well, it's just but like nobody's caught on to the fact that it's like everybody's like, oh, they're doing great because all their movies connect. No, they're making good movies. And then they're connecting them.
Right.
It's not a hard concept. Just make a good movie. That's step one. And then if you want to add some stuff, do it later. Cool, that's fine. Make 20 other good movies and string them together. Fine, but start with a good movie. It's no, I know.
I
get emotional.
No,
you're right.
We feel you, man.
You're right.
We're with you on this completely. Yeah, that's just the same way I felt after watching Bumblebee. Like I liked the movie fine, but it was just meh when I was hoping for, you know, more excitement and more fun. And like that, the opening of that movie had the big stupid smile on my face because I was like, this is amazing. This is so much fun to watch. I'm not even a big Transformers fan, but I know these guys because this is, you know, and this is really fun to watch. And then as soon as we rolled into the same old, it was like, well, here we are. We're back to this again. And nothing's changed here. All the robot fights were great. And you know what? I liked the main character. I thought the story was kind of fun. Like I said, like I didn't hate this movie by any means.
Right.
I thought it was a fun, entertaining movie. It was absolutely
easily third best Transformers.
I was gonna say it was absolutely a step above the last 3 Transformers movies we got. But it just still didn't really get me super duper excited about it.
Which it's gotten pretty rave reviews.
I know
on
people are really
aspect.
happy about it, and that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I think a lot, and I think it was you, Jaron, who had mentioned something that it was basically like a very safe movie, just very much like the studio or whoever going, "Hey guys, come on back."
That's what it is, right? Like it's getting rave reviews because they're like, "Thank God it wasn't the last night."
Yeah,
right?
basically,
like
because and that's what the Paramount or whoever it is just going, "Hey, we're sorry."
Yeah.
We'll do better.
Yeah.
And there's very little wrong with it because I told you I was bored and I didn't think I was disappointed, and then I started listing things about it, and you're like, "It sounds." Your list sounds like the different review than you gave, you know, and I'm like, yeah.
I know, and I feel like I'm being a little too hard on it with what I'm saying because it's a fine movie. I want more.
Yeah.
I want more. I'm selfish.
Well, I mean,
guess.
going to the movies costs $50 today. We deserve better than fine.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're right.
However, with the reception it's getting and the fact that they're not going to stop making these movies anytime soon, whether they're good or bad, it should at least. I would think it's at least hopeful now.
I do think, and I think it's the promise of a better Transformer movie.
Yeah.
Well, I was bored with it, but I think all the elements that were there, if they carry those elements over, can be better.
Yeah.
When we're done writing,
and how good was John Cena?
Cena was amazing.
He was the best part of that movie.
You know, my favorite. No, he was great.
Yeah.
John Cena had my favorite line in the whole movie. He says, "They call themselves the Decepticons. Doesn't that raise a red flag to anybody else?" I died.
Yeah,
I was like,
sure.
"That's amazing. That's amazing."
For sure.
Yeah,
well,
when
we're done writing that Monster Squad remake, maybe we can pump out a couple of Transformers.
Take a crack at Transformers.
yeah. Look,
okay.
I don't know. Every time I sit here and talk about this stuff like Transformers, because I'm not even like a huge Transformers guy, and I'm sitting here like nitpicking it to the point where I'm like, do better. This is why I know.
Well, but you're not looking for your goal isn't a better version of this thing you loved as a kid. Your goal is just a good movie.
Okay,
Yeah.
all I'm getting at is this is how I know for certain I'm going to hate any He-Man movie that happens. There's no chance. There's no chance you guys are going to make a He-Man movie that I'm going to like. There's no chance. All right, we moving on from Bumblebee? Do we say everything?
We can.
All right, John. Well, I'm going to bring it over to you then for your topic of the day.
I'm just going to keep running on this Netflix train, especially as they keep bringing out,
Netflix, John.
This is 4 episodes in a row where John's like Netflix stuff.
Yep. It's become my mantra here.
Maybe you just need an actual segment that's Netflix Corner with Jonathan
We need
Leonard.
like a little
I'm fine with that because honestly, I'd be more comfortable if I could get outside this box every once in a while. So I'm okay with just the Netflix Corner being a regular
Netflix
segment
John,
of the show.
Netflix John.
Why do all your jingles sound the same? They're all the
Stick with what works, Dan.
Okay,
I'm trying to keep a coherent theme.
I like it.
I'm trying to keep a coherent theme, Danny.
Netflix released Bird Box. It's a box where you put your birds in.
Is that it?
It is.
I had no idea what that movie was
I didn't
about.
think that's what it would be, but it was, as it turned out.
2 hours of measuring birds in a measuring box.
The big deal about this one, though, is the crazy viewership numbers and the fact that it's a Sandra Bullock vehicle.
Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah,
it's all over social media. You can't escape it.
There are memes going left and right, many of which are awesome.
Yeah.
But it's a real big deal as far as releases go because it's another big name star. I don't know if it's the biggest they've had, but it's arguably. I mean, she's got to be right up there.
Yeah.
It's a very serious movie, so it's not one of those gimmicky type things exactly. Well, to say it's not gimmicky is not right.
I was going to say.
I
get what you're saying, but...
yeah. But, I mean, this would be a deal if it were in theaters, but it's not in theaters. It's in your living room.
Right.
And I think Netflix doesn't generally release numbers, but I think the word was after the release of this thing, the first weekend, like 45 million people had watched it, they said, or maybe even bigger than that. It was some number that seemed crazy to me when I read it.
Yeah.
And the article was even stating basically like they don't usually do this, and no one knows how they get their numbers, but that's a crazy amount of people to have been watching this movie. And if nothing else, it proves that Sandra Bullock is still a huge star.
Yep.
The movie itself, we'll go into the review section of that, I guess. And then Dan, you haven't seen this.
I haven't had a chance to see it, but feel free to talk about it.
Yeah, well, spoilers if anybody hasn't.
Spoilers.
It's a real weird flick, man. And I'm not sure it isn't. Given the hype that was put behind it, it is not at all what I expected. Because I really didn't know much going in, except for I had seen part of the trailer, and it was very reminiscent of A Quiet Place to me. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I didn't, but I wanted to see that too.
Yeah. Well, before I saw the movie, I saw someone mention online that it was a pretty much an equal mix between A Quiet Place and The Happening. Which was funny because then I don't even remember where I read that. I don't know if it was an article or a Facebook thing or whatever it was, but whoever said it then goes, and both those other movies did it better. And I was like, oh no. That doesn't bode well because, as far as like major studio releases go, The Happening has to be on the bottom 10, right?
What do you mean, bro? It was the trees. The trees were killing people.
Yeah, man.
The trees were killing people with the wind, bro.
Revenge, bro. The trees were getting us back.
Now, I'm happy to say that this movie's much better than The Happening. It's nowhere near as good as A Quiet Place, though. But they are really all three kind of the same thing, I would say. And this is a perfect mix of right in the middle. They never really do explain what's going on in this movie, whereas the other two, I felt like at least I had an idea of why things might be happening. Mm-hmm. This one, they just it is and it goes. It's told in a neat fashion because they start you off in the middle of her basically like trying to navigate while blindfolded with two kids down a river to get to some place that may be safe. And then they tell a lot of the events of her, how she got there through flashback. And so they will continuously go back and forth from, her on the river to her with this, this group of survivors when it first starts happening and how they all came together. And then slowly but surely they all start getting picked off and various things happen. You learn some interesting things like, and again, we're getting into full spoiler territory, so hope it doesn't ruin it for you, Dan, or anybody who's listening actually can at least hit stop. You couldn't leave the room if you wanted to. You're stuck in the middle. But basically, whatever these things are that you never really see, you just see sort of wind and leaves rustling. But if people see them, they immediately they see their worst fears or their saddest moment. You don't even really get a full grasp of what that is because some people get totally freaked out. And some people start like talking to their mother or something, but they all basically immediately commit suicide. And that's where it's very Happening reminiscent because it's like all these people just doing this weird stuff to themselves just to die. And so you can't make eye contact with anything outside because once you do, you're dead. Now you find out, halfway through the movie that apparently mentally insane people are just driven a little crazier, but they don't go and commit suicide immediately. They think whatever they're seeing is beauty. And so they're trying to get everyone else to look at it so everyone can experience it. And so that becomes kind of a happening in the middle there where they run into some crazy people every once in a while that are just basically trying to get their blindfolds off, They're not even that murderous as in, like, they're not running around just, like, trying to kill people. They're just trying to make sure everybody sees. And then ultimately that ends up killing everybody. It's very suspenseful. I think it's told in a neat way. I don't... I mean, that's a real weird story to put down and lay out. And I didn't... I mean, I enjoyed it, I say with that weird expression on my face. I would almost say I kind of felt about it the way you guys seem to feel about Bumblebee. It's there. It's fine. It's not fully my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I don't understand the praise that's going behind it. Like, I didn't fully understand the praise of A Quiet Place, but I liked it a lot more than I liked this one. But it was still so niche. It felt so, very, like, kind of tunnel vision. Like, it was just, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing else it's reminiscent of. There's nothing else other than the other movies we're kind of talking about here. But it's just sort of a weird offshoot of an alien story or demon story or whatever they might be. That it was bizarre to me that one was as popular as it was. And I'm guessing it's mostly because of whatever people are connecting with in A Quiet Place that this one is getting the press it's getting. But outside of the performances being good, I wanted a little bit more, at least more of an explanation.
Yeah.
Or at least more of a feeling. It gets to the end and there is a resolution, but I still felt way more questions than answers.
Oh, I hate when movies do that to me.
Exactly. And I don't have every story doesn't have to be a paint by numbers thing where I understand exactly everything that's moving forward. But I really felt with this one I got absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Like there was with The Happening they at least explained that it was a dumb explanation.
Right.
But they gave you some reasoning behind it. With A Quiet Place, they never really did, but they're very clearly some sort of alien creature. Like you can build something around just knowing that it's there. This thing, you never even saw anything. You just saw the wind, and then you heard voices, and you knew people were doing stuff, but there was no reason behind any of it. And I would have liked at least a hint. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But that's not my only problem with it. My other problems with it were just that it's a slog to get through. A bit, and entertaining things would happen, or things that would keep me going, but there was just a lot of like you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt everyone she was with was dead,
right?
Because of the flashback.
Yep. Well, they told you that in the first,
and so like every scene that would go back, it wasn't like oh, what's going to happen next? Where are they going to go? It was basically just who's going to die next,
right?
And I don't know. There wasn't a lot for me to grasp onto. So again, I feel like I'm putting it off worse than I really felt about it because it was fine.
No.
I wouldn't tell anybody to not watch it. The only reason I would tell someone to watch it is because everyone's talking about it. Mm-hmm. So it's not a movie. Sometimes there's movies that everybody's talking about, and I would still go, you know what, ignore them because they're not that good. This one, it's like go watch it just because you're getting into the conversation, but you're going to get more. You're gonna get more edification out of the conversations you get to have afterwards than you are going to be from the 2 hours you sit there watching that.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
So I thought that the movie. See, I didn't feel like it had its own identity. You said it's kind of its own thing in this little niche. I felt like the whole movie was like it was kind of a zombie movie. It was kind of The Happening. It was kind of The Quiet Place. It was kind of every single other apocalypse movie,
Just to clarify, I meant like those three as a group were sort of like their own thing because it's definitely reminiscent of those other two for sure.
Right.
I didn't think of the zombie aspect. I can see that now that you do say it.
Yeah.
But my point was like those three stories feel like they're really the same to me. Just
right.
like way like one of them's the poor end of the spectrum, one of them's the good end, and the other one's right there in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are. They're all end of the world stories.
Yeah.
And this was just that. I felt like it was just that paint by numbers end of the story. I felt like what set it apart was Sandra Bullock. She was so good in this. It was one of those movies where you watch somebody and remember how good of an actress they are. I was watching Sandra Bullock just go enthralled with Sandra Bullock. Like wow, I forgot she was this, not Speed. John Malkovich was in it.
Was great.
He was great in it. So I enjoyed watching him. The other male lead, her co-star, I don't know who he is. He was phenomenal. I thought he was. I was really impressed. I was like, I hope I see this guy in everything.
Yeah, he was in that Predator.
Was he in Predator?
Yeah,
I haven't seen that yet.
And he did something else pretty big fairly recently. I can't remember, but he's been good in everything I've seen him in.
Yeah,
too,
so he's
and the performances were all very good. I think that was one of the main things that really did keep me involved. So like at least I'm watching actors really act.
Yes,
and all of them were doing a great job there.
Yep, and I also thought the way the movie was constructed, it was constructed well, and I didn't realize I'm in the phase of my life where I'm noticing that kind of thing. but then I started thinking about it, and I have some construction thoughts on Aquaman, and I had some construction thoughts on so I'm like, it kind of woke me like, oh, I guess I'm going through a phase where I think about how a movie is put together. I had some real issues. One thing I'll say, this is one of the first movies I've seen where an apocalypse doesn't look like more fun than the world we live in right now. So I'm out on the blindfold apocalypse. That's not where I'm at.
If that's what you mean by it, like anytime I watch a Mad Max, I'm like, man, if I make it through the part that made it like this, I'm gonna enjoy this part.
Yeah.
But for sure,
I can't wait. I got a list of people I'm gonna go string up on my car first. Like let's do it.
But the blindfold apocalypse did not look enjoyable.
Nope.
And I guess maybe that was the other part of it is like every bit of her on that river seemed a little in a movie about wind making you murder yourself.
Yes,
that seemed a little too fantastic to me.
Yes,
Well,
I thought the exact same thing. There's a scene where they black out the windows of a car and drive using your GPS.
Yeah,
I've used the GPS. They don't work like that.
Yeah. That's what my wife said as soon as it starts. She's like, maybe that would work if there weren't carnage all over the road. But they kept showing like scenes of the street outside, and just the street right outside the house they were staying in had cars and bodies everywhere.
And so was different every time, like other stuff was happening.
Yes. And so it's like even if you're driving really slow and GPS tells you to turn and you can kind of guide where the curbs are, you're not going to know when there's a Buick right in front of you. And they did the like proximity sensor thing, but that's not how those work.
Right, exactly.
Like, maybe it'll tell you something's there, but you won't be able to swerve to miss it.
Right.
Yeah. For goodness sake.
So there's a lot of stuff. The stuff on the river, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
I say there's a point
somebody's got to look. Everybody, everybody has to look the whole time, or you're dead instantly.
Because they were on rapids. Like it was unbelievable when they were just floating down the river and she was rowing. Because I've rowed a boat before when I could see, and I had no idea how to steer it.
Right.
You guys were there. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Why have we done that again? Why have we done that again?
In the 40s, I think. It was ridiculous. Not all my fault, but that's a whole different story. But then they get to the rapids, and she's like, "Well, just nobody's gonna look."
Yeah,
and she's still like steering. She's like, "Hold on," and like, "What are you good? Like, just put your oars in the boat, hug it, and hope for the best, because you ain't doing nothing."
Yeah,
you're gonna steer around a rock you can't see.
Yep.
That you couldn't steer around if you could see.
Right.
And then they capsize, and all the kids get lost, and then she just finds them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It was a complete damp squib of a scene. Yeah.
Oh man.
And again, even if I'm willing to buy the rest of this movie, that part gives me pause.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I did like. So in the beginning, her sister is talking to her, and she's like, "Oh, have you seen what's happening?" And she's like a shut-in and doing her art or whatever. And she's like, "No." She's like, "Well, turn on the TV, check the news." And she's like, "What channel?" She's like, "Any of them." And she turns on the TV, and it's talking about all this craziness that's happening, like in Russia and some other place, like across the globe. Mm-hmm. And then they get to the hospital. She has a doctor's appointment, and on her way out of the doctor's appointment, one chick is freaking out, and she immediately runs downstairs and goes, "It's happening here." Which is perfect, because that's what like how often do we sit there and watch a movie where somebody's like, "Oh, that's strange, that's exactly like that thing that I saw on the news, but that can't be the same thing," and so then they just walk around oblivious for 20 minutes while the whole audience is going, "It's the same thing. Why are you doing that?" "No, I'd have known right away." She knew right away. I was like, "This is all. Yep, cool. I'm in." Because she did like she walked by and there's this chick banging her head against the wall, and she runs right downstairs, gets in the car, and she goes, "It's the same thing's happening. Let's get out of here."
Yeah, we gotta run.
It's here.
Oh man. I'll probably still check it out.
Yeah.
Like I want to, just because it's the, like you said, everybody's talking about it.
I wouldn't recommend against it. It's not a movie I disliked. I wasn't as high on it as a lot of people seem to be. I had my issues with it.
Well, I'll be I've seen a lot of people on social media go, "I watched Bird Box, I don't see what the big deal is." Like, that's been a pretty common tweet or Facebook post I've seen. So it's definitely one of those things where, like, it is very popular, but it seems like a lot of people kind of have that same opinion of it. So,
but again, though, I mean, even if the point was just, let's throw Sandra Bullock out there and see how many views we can get, it's working. And it's going right along that path of I still, by following whatever Netflix is becoming as far as movie goes, I don't know what I'm looking for. But this is definitely another step. Because it's a big deal for them. It's a big name. It's a lot of viewers. Everybody's talking about it. It's a big deal for them, you know. And I'm wondering what happens next now, just for Netflix.
So stay tuned as the Geek Easy continues to observe Netflix and their journey into the movies. All right. Well, let's go ahead and bring it on down to our final topic, which is yet another movie discussion. There was a lot of movies that came out just since the last time we recorded.
It's December, man.
Yeah, December's a big month for it. So the big one to talk about, of course, today, which I know everybody's waiting for us to discuss, is Aquaman. And all three of us have seen Aquaman, right?
Seen it like 4 times.
You've seen it like 4 times?
Yeah.
I want to see it 4 times.
Like because you wanted to go watch it 4 times, or because people kept wanting to go see it and you went with them?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
I want to go see it 4 times.
Well, go see it.
Go see
4
it
times.
3 more times.
Solid.
Actually,
Solid
I've seen it twice, and I know I'm going to see it at least once more. But
so I think it's safe to say that we all enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah.
I liked it quite a bit, actually. I all I know is I had a lot of fun watching that movie. I had a lot of fun watching that movie.
I will tell you, Jaron texted me right after he saw it before I did, and he's like, the text, there was no setup. I didn't know he had watched it. The text was just, man, this movie has everything. And immediately I was like, oh, so it's good? He's like, well, like, yeah, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is, like, I don't know how they could have packed any more into a movie.
Oh my God.
And I was like, well, that's funny, but that's got to be an exaggeration. Until I went and saw it, and the dinosaurs showed up. And as soon as the dinosaurs showed up, I was like, well, that was the last thing.
that was all these movies.
Yeah, they had everything but dinosaurs. And now there it is. Last box checked. Way to go, Aquaman.
See, I hadn't even checked off my whole box at that point.
Oh man.
I don't know if we're gonna.
Well,
where do we
start?
start?
We're way into
Where do we
spoilers.
start?
Yeah.
Where do we
into
start?
spoilers. Well, I don't know. Saying there are dinosaurs is a really weak spoiler. Like, there are dinosaurs in this movie.
Well, we're
what even show up, bro?
I'm not saying that was the big spoiler. I'm just reminding everyone we are.
Oh, I got you.
We're diving right into spoiler territory.
Full on spoilers. Okay.
All right. Well, let me start then by saying
Start us, Pixel Dan.
I will say, okay, so I had a lot of fun with it, and I text you too as soon as I got done watching it, because my text was, we now live in a world where Aquaman has a hugely better, brighter, more comic booky, more fun movie than Superman.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly, like, I had a lot of fun watching that movie. Yep. I was smiling a lot through a lot of it. And what I think is so funny about it is, well, first of all, I liked it so much that I got mad again. But I got mad at Warner Brothers and everybody, because I'm just like, man, if you dummies weren't so worried about catching up with Marvel and trying to, like, make fast Marvel Cinematic Universe money by throwing together those stupid Superman and Batman movies and rushing together that Justice League movie, and you guys focused on making Wonder Womans and Aquamans and building up all of these characters and getting us excited to see them all unite, you guys are so stupid. It makes me really mad, because I really liked Wonder Woman, and now I'm really liking Aquaman, and it's just like, man, you guys, you could have been doing this from the beginning if you knew what the heck you were doing.
I mean, they made a Superman movie using 9 colors.
I know. I know.
They made this Aquaman movie that is bright, like,
I know.
knock you out of the room.
They wrote a Batman movie and plugged Superman into it.
Yep.
And the other thing I thought was so funny about this is, it's like, they literally had an answer to every nitpick anybody ever had about Aquaman. Like, you remember when we all laughed at his trident that had 5 points, so it wasn't a trident? Oh, it turns out that wasn't actually the trident. He gets the real trident in this movie.
Yeah, but they still called it a trident even in this movie.
But, like, it's almost like that was, like, their way of going, yeah, our bad guys, here's the real trident now. There's an explanation for why he had that other one. And he gets the real trident. Like, he gets the real Aquaman costume in this movie that looks like it's straight out of a comic book.
Which, I didn't expect. I saw that on posters and in the previews, and still didn't expect to see it in the movie. Like, I thought I was being swerved the whole time.
No, yeah.
Like, I just never expected him to go there.
And it's as bright as you, like, it's yellow and green and just straight up, like, as Aquaman as it could be. And, like, every character in this movie looks like they're right out of the comics. Friggin' Ocean Master. You would never expect them to put the big stupid helmet and everything on Ocean Master. The purple cape and the white. But there he was, wearing it, you know. Black Manta looked like, you know, big goofy helmet and red eyes and everything.
He was
Boom.
awesome, too.
He was amazing.
That whole, like, that whole
amazing.
character and the story. Like, I felt like they made Aquaman a bad guy right out of the chute. Like, they did that scene later where, because Mara was like, who is that? And Aquaman's like, oh, he blames me for his father dying. And I'm sitting there in the theater going, because you killed him. Because you straight up killed him.
Hey,
and then he's like, probably because it was pretty much my fault.
Oh man, but it's good though. Like they set up Black Manta and like he's there now, and like they gave him purpose, and I'm totally cool with the way they brought him into the whole thing and they treated him. I don't know, man. I had so much fun.
You know, this is one of those fun ones for me because outside of like having seen some of these characters on like the trading cards and stuff back in the day, I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
So it looked and felt like a comic book to me, which is what I want out of my comic book movies. You know, sorry. DC. but beyond that, like, I mean, this could have been totally comic centered. Like, it could have been straight out of the pages of an Aquaman story. Or they could have made all of it up on the fly, and I wouldn't know. But either way, I was super entertained by it, so it didn't matter. Like, I wasn't married to them having to stick to any comic book story or any comic book relations or any of that stuff. I was just happy having fun at a movie. And knowing that it at least looked like a comic book, it had, you know, jokes and color and hope and all of these, you know, aspects that I want out of my superheroes. And they were all just shoved into this thing with this character that I've been making fun of for 30 years.
I mean,
because he's Aquaman. And now all of a sudden, Aquaman's cool, you know?
Well, they totally made him their Thor.
Yeah.
And they totally followed the same thing, right? Like, they're like, well, we need one of those Thors. Aquaman's a good candidate for that, I guess, because, you know, I mean, come on, we felt the same way about Thor before watching Thor.
Jared's
right?
over here in pain trying to argue.
I mean, I'm waiting for you guys to finish, and I'm gonna take. Since you guys are gushing about it, even though I enjoyed it, I'm going to take the hard line.
No, that's totally fine. We need that.
Well, and I've told several people, like, I'm gushing about it because I was pleasantly surprised by how much fun I had.
Yes.
And I don't need anything more than to have a good time at a lot of these movies, and I'm fine with that. I have told several people, like, let me be clear, it's not good in the classic sense. You know, like, this movie ain't winning any Oscars by any means. But, you know, from start to finish, bell to bell, if you will, I enjoyed what I was watching. There were some slower parts, but not many. There were some really cheesy one-liners, but I still smiled at you know, like, not because they were cool, but at how cheesy they were. But at least I was still smiling, you know? But that's the other thing I've told several people. Is like, man, if you like action and one-liners, I mean, this is Fast and Furious underwater with superheroes.
Man,
you know,
he rode that seahorse.
He did.
Just as like that seahorse was there.
Dan, they had sharks with frickin' laser beams.
They did.
It had everything.
It even had He-Man in it, dude.
It did. It did.
Because Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah.
And he was awesome.
He gets it.
He was awesome.
I get it.
Bearded Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah.
So, all right,
tell us why it's terrible.
Okay. It's terrible, and here's the things that we're not mentioning is, first of all, Aquaman is no Thor.
Okay, I'm just
is he
Thor was no Thor until there was Thor.
That's fine. But he is not. He is like, somebody definitely went, well, what if we made it like Thor?
That's what. And
he can be our Thor, and then, that's fine.
That's what I meant.
And he's likes to fight, and he has one-liners.
I'm not.
But Thor has a whole character, and Aquaman is the opposite of a character. Okay, that's and for the record, that's why this movie works, because it's not. He is like a placeholder that we can follow through this crazy race of a movie. He has no character. He doesn't really even have an arc. You know, he doesn't learn anything. He just kind of flies through and gets not mad at people, and you know what I mean. He doesn't learn anything. He doesn't decide to be king because he realized that he can do a lot of good. He just decides to be king because he survived to the end of the movie, so now he's the king.
Like,
you know what I mean?
There's even that line where like at the end he's like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah,
and she goes, you be their king, and he's like,
cool,
this will be fun.
Yeah.
Like that's legit. Like. Yeah, all right, cool, awesome.
He preferred to be king
bro,
because he survived to the end of the movie.
Like, I mean, that's what happened.
He's super right. I still had fun.
You know that he gets. He doesn't even learn. So he fights all the way through. They even have that moment where he's like ready to give up. And he's like, "Oh, I'm a blunt instrument. I just survived by being the toughest, and I've been getting my butt kicked this whole time."
And then a wall exploded and people started shooting.
Yeah,
okay,
and he's just like,
that was 20 moments in that movie.
No, actually, that was when they were on the boat, right? He was talking to Mara. I'm trying to remember the moment because it doesn't go anywhere. He's like, I need to not. This isn't gonna work. And she's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "All I do is fight." And she's like, "Well, we can't turn back now." He's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't think about that." And they just keep going, you know. Like, there's
very good point.
Yeah. This movie set a pace from the opening minute that was nonstop.
Yeah.
You know,
this movie looked like it was directed by a guy who directed like 3 or 4 Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah, you know,
which as it turns out,
right. I have to mention I was super mad at the beginning because the very first thing that happens is there's that snow there's that huge storm, and the lighthouse keeper runs out and starts tying the shutters to his lighthouse open. You don't tie the shutters to the lighthouse open in a storm. You shut the shutters so they protect the glass. So mad. Like that's what shutters do. They protect the window.
Yeah.
Like you tie them shut. You wouldn't have been tying them open so they stop banging the siding. He would have been tying them shut. So. All right, but anyway,
I thought it was funny when that happened because like the movie basically started with a jump scare, you know, which got me. Like it was just like one of those shutters just banging, and I was like, huh. Like immediately, I'm like, that's weird for this movie. Right. And then 20 times in that movie. In the middle of a quiet sentence, a wall would explode and people would run in shooting. Right. Every time, like, hey!
Yeah. So that movie sets that pace. Man, you know, I'm super not sympathetic. I know they tried to set it up as like, oh man, Aquaman, let that guy die. Can you believe it? They shot him with a rocket.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that dude tried. Like not only did they kill a bunch of people on that sub before Aquaman showed up, not only did Black Manta straight up stab Aquaman several times, he just couldn't pierce his skin. That dude came in and shot Aquaman with a grenade or a missile or whatever, and yeah, I don't have and then Aquaman didn't like break his neck and murder him. When a torpedo fell on him and pinned him down, Aquaman left him to fend for himself.
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with that. Sorry. I mean, is he the pinnacle of virtue? That, like, I guess had Superman been there and Superman been like, let the sea judge you. I'd been like, that's not what Superman.
That's not what Superman would do.
Right,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm totally. I mean, this wasn't even like super noble Aquaman yet, because 5 minutes later he's getting drunk with his dad.
I never said that was out of character for Aquaman because I wouldn't have a clue what would be out of character for Aquaman.
Sure.
That's true.
I just thought it was funny because it was like it also wasn't sympathetic towards Aquaman at all. It wasn't
that's fine.
Like it wasn't that hero moment that you would have expected. And so it's not so much that I was rooting for Black Manta, as it was like, I mean, he already didn't like you, and then you totally just could have easily gotten them out of there and just decided not to. Yep. And so, his revenge deal is fully justified,
I don't think it is, though. Look. I mean, it's fine.
It's
fine. He's a bad guy.
Do you expect him to run into a guy and goes, "I've heard about you and I've always wanted to kill you," and then watch that guy not save his dad and then go, "Well, I guess I deserve that."
But that's the thing, because he showed up. The very first thing he said was like, you're so and so, I'm so and so. It was only a matter of time before we met. Now I'm gonna kill you. So like it didn't change. It changed his motivation, but it didn't change his character at all.
No. But it added that layer of motivation to it. Like it made it personal.
But it. I mean,
that's a weird argument.
It is a weird argument. And maybe we just need to move on. I just you know.
Yo, what about that guitar riff they gave Aquaman for his little theme song every time he showed? Like, were they trying real hard to give him like his own Wonder Woman theme song or what? Dude?
I guess so, man. So that's the other thing. This movie tries to distract you from the fact that because it tries to make everything is a huge reveal. I mean, Aquaman, when he first comes onto that sub, he gets 3 big reveals, right? You know, like 3 times. You know, like he comes in and it shows him from the back, and he does the turnaround, and it does is like da 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 da.
Yeah.
You know, and he hits his one-liner, and then the very next scene he like slams somebody around, and they show him from like with his head down. And he gets like the slow look up, and he does da 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 da, and he says another one-liner, and then he walks in, and the dude shoot him. You know, he walks in, and the dude shoots him in the face, and when he turns back all slow, and it's like da 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 da, and he gives him another one-liner and knocks the dude like. And that's in the first 5 minutes. He gets like the 3 huge reveal in the first 5 minutes he's on, but then they keep doing that, and when everybody shows up, you know, there's like the big reveal. Even if we've seen him before, it's like. Mara, it happened to her like 3 or 4 times where they were like, "Oh, she's here," ba-na-na-na, you know. and what was with her dress? There's like a squid with
the jellyfish,
holding it up.
Yeah, that was weird.
Man, well, everything was weird. When we're about to have the big huge king duel. Right? To determine, you know, fight to the death in the ring of fire to determine who's the real king of Atlantis. And they cut away to show the octopus from The Little Mermaid playing the shells. Like, is that? I mean, this movie had everything, and it was nonstop. You know,
it was so fun.
And then, like,
oh, man.
So okay, and then I have to bring up too because. The moment where I was like, this movie has everything, like, was not when I saw dinosaurs. It was when he showed up for the final battle riding a kaiju, and I was okay, this movie has everything, you know. And there were moments, you know, because I saw the dinosaurs and I was like, oh, okay, dinosaurs, and you know, this movie has a lot, and then. When they're getting ready for the battle, and you know all the Atlanteans are showing up, and it's kind of like the Luftwaffe flying in, and it's like, oh, this movie has World War II, but then they show like the ground troops and all the crabs, and I was like, oh, and Lord of the Rings, okay, so we're here now, and then like. He shows up with Godzilla, and I'm like, oh, this movie just has everything. Just everything. There's everything in this movie.
You didn't know what was going on under the ocean, dude. We
Apparently not,
it's
man.
It's the least explored part of the entire... Look, we know more about space than we know about the oceans. We didn't know that there were crab people and Godzillas and stuff going on.
I've always suspected.
Yeah.
Well...
This movie was a peek behind the curtain.
Pardon me if I'm stealing this line from you again, too, because I can't remember who said it, but somebody pointed out that Willem Dafoe looked more like a fish person than the CGI fish people did.
No joke. That wasn't me. I don't know who said that, but... No, I was super mad. I hated the underwater hair. I thought the underwater CGI hair was distractingly bad every moment it was on scene.
I thought a lot of the underwater CGI was I don't want to use the word bad, but off.
It felt weird. Yeah. It felt weird in a lot of the scenes. Definitely.
I was fine with most of it. I never felt like it, and maybe because I was too busy going, that hair. Who thought that hair? Who greenlit that hair? Who thought that was okay? to notice the rest of it.
Moments where they were kind of like floating around, and it was a little weird looking in some of those
Looked
scenes.
like they were just moving
yeah,
the screen.
Because like
moving
the camera,
screen.
some of those scenes felt a little strange. It was kind of like I get what you guys are going for here, but it looks weird. It looks like your CGI moving this guy around.
Yeah.
Like he's standing still, and you guys are holding the cursor down on your mouse and dragging him around.
You zoomed in so you can move the print around.
Like that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay.
This was fun.
Yeah, really,
I'm having as much fun talking about it as
I've seen that preview 10 times. I did not know Patrick Wilson was in that movie until you pointed it out, Jared. Because that was one of the things he was telling me. He's like, Patrick Wilson was great. I'm like, ooh, he's in it? He's like, yeah, he's the bad guy in every scene of the trailer. I'm like, oh, okay. Just didn't make that.
The Ocean Master.
I guess it was the underwater hair.
Yeah.
But I just never made that connection until he showed up in the movie, and I was like, well, clearly that's Patrick Wilson.
Well, also his was one of the better ones. For whatever reason, they decided his should just be slicked down the whole time.
Yeah.
I thought everybody except Jason Momoa did really well. Not that Jason Momoa did bad, just that he didn't get to do anything except deliver one-liners. And
they did have a surprising amount of star power in the movie.
Yeah.
Like with Nicole Kidman and Willem Dafoe and Dolph Lundgren's hanging out, and like they had a lot of names in the movie.
And Mira, what's her name? I thought Mira, whatever, it doesn't matter. I thought she stole every scene she was in.
Man, I super know that girl's name.
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't know.
The second you asked.
Outside of this.
I thought
Amber Heard.
Amber Heard, yeah. I thought she was great. I thought Patrick Wilson was incredible.
Yep.
He was
a great villain.
Yeah.
He was a great villain.
Yeah. Willem Dafoe was great, playing both sides of that line.
Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe. I forgot about that until just now.
Oh, dude, a frog sounds like a frog talking to a parrot. Willem Dafoe.
Well, that's another thing you said via text message after that movie. After I saw the movie, when we were conversing about it, is you said, is Jason Momoa the best worst actor in Hollywood or the worst best actor in Hollywood?
It's got to be one or the other, man.
Yeah,
I don't think. Yeah. I mean,
it's entertaining, whatever the answer is, but I don't know what the answer is. That's a great question.
Oh man!
Because he was fine, and he
did. What he
never looked lost, and he never looked off. He had nothing to do with that character.
He did what they wrote him to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
He did exactly what they wrote him to do.
Yes. And that's fine. He did that fine.
Oh my gosh!
They were basically like, just look, go be Dolph Lundgren to The Rock's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And then Dolph was like, "But I'm in this movie. That's my role." Oh no! You broke Jan.
We're losing one. That's why Dolph was there to back him up, He's like, let me show you the ropes, kid.
Yeah. Oh my god. This is amazing.
I think you and I have to take over.
I think we're just going to have to take it because we've lost Jared. He's out. See, this movie's fun to watch and fun to talk about.
I will say too, and this has been we briefly touched upon within the group here at some point, is like when you get to Act 3, it's still definitely a DC movie. Act 3, like there still is. This one's a sea creature tornado.
A sea creature tornado.
But you're definitely still fighting a tornado. But I think it was you, Jared, who kind of pointed it out, and I'll definitely paraphrase or say it wrong, whichever. But like, Wonder Woman was great. Wonder Woman was 2 fantastic acts, and then an Act 3. This movie, the Act 3 wasn't better, but man, it fits so much more into this sphere of crazy that Acts 1 and 2 were. Like Wonder Woman's a better movie overall, beyond a doubt, in my opinion. But this one definitely had more of a full flow to it. Like, there's no point where I'm like, all right, the part I love stopped and then the rest happened. This one is just like, you know what? I don't even care that I'm watching sharks with laser beams fight a kraken. Don't care at all. It just fits with everything that's happened up to this point. This is the logical next step here. You better? You all right? You back in?
I think I'm back. Yeah, this was the first time that the DC formula has worked. I feel like, you know, it progressed and it built and everything, you know. So it was so action packed and at such a fast pace that when you got to the Kraken fight, the tornado, you know, the CGI tornado climax, it felt like it worked. But, you know, I'm going to pull back on that a little bit because they also did the thing, because it comes down, like they go through that and they have the big fireworks and the whole CGI tornado, but then the end fight comes down to the two guys.
Yeah.
Just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but in the middle of a tornado fight,
man, no, the tornado stops at that point. Remember, because
like,
Aquaman, you know, and like I'm just now working through this, but I think that because okay, so here's the thing. One of my big complaints is that with Dawn of Justice is that they don't pay off the movie they spend the whole building up to. You know, I always like to compare. So I always like to compare Dawn of Justice and Civil War. Okay. Yeah. And with so with Civil War, right? They give you the whole big. They give you the whole build up. They set up the stakes. Then we get the airplane fight or the airport fight, and that's the fireworks, and you know, and then you know immediately after that, you find out that oh well, there's all these other super soldiers, and you're like, okay, good. So, you know, Iron Man and Cap can friends forever, and then go, you know, and go take out the super soldiers together, and we'll fix everything. And then they get to the super soldiers, and instead they just make the stakes. They just go back and make the stakes super personal. And then even though we've already had the superhero fight, Captain America and Iron Man throw down over something that's much more personal than their little disagreement over the Accords. Yeah. Okay. So they take the stakes of these two opposing personalities and they raise those stakes. Right. So with Aquaman, we kind of see that, you know, as opposed to Dawn of Justice, where they spend the whole time setting up Superman versus Batman, Superman versus Batman, Superman and Batman fight for a minute. 5 minutes is the length of that fight, I think.
I don't know, maybe an hour.
of the fight, the Superman Batman fight is definitely not an hour long.
Everything that happened in that movie felt like forever.
I think that fight. I think the actual fight is under 10 minutes. It pays off nothing. It settles nothing, and then we get Doomsday, and Superman dies. Yeah. You know, so
which also for no reason.
For no reason, right?
Because Wonder Woman could have just taken that dude out.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Wonder Woman was about to win the Doomsday fight without the kryptonite spear. That's where that movie was.
Yeah.
Like he basically showed up and sacrificed himself to prove a point that the woman can't do it.
I guess, man.
Superman, bro. Jeez.
So
also, both their mom's name is Martha. This is very important to the story.
Yes,
Martha.
But
we find a way to spin into this every episode.
That's the thing that works with Aquaman that the other DC movies don't happen is they bring the stakes back. Okay, so we get a big kaiju fight. Yeah, we get the CGI tornado. But then after we're going, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm looking at. Aquaman grabs the guy he hates. They fly up out of the water and they establish that I hate you and I want to kill you because I blame you for taking my mom. I blame you for my mom dying, and that's why we're having this fight. I want to destroy the surface because, you know what I mean? Like it brings it all back to some stakes that matter, and then you throw down, you know? And even though you know Aquaman's about to whoop this dude because he's got the magic spear of destiny now, or the trident of destiny now, right? Like, we get to see this dude, everything crumble around him. You know, and we get to see those stakes paid off. And I would say we don't see that. I would say that's the failing of the Wonder Woman third act. And like I'm just realizing this as I'm speaking it out. So just to acknowledge that. Wonder Woman builds up her whole stakes all through the first half, and she's on Themyscira, away from the world, and nobody wants to let her fight or do anything. Oh, well, now she's going to take it into her own hands to leave because she hears about this war she's got to go check out. She gets there, and everybody's trying to keep her away from the war and tell her to go do something else and hide it from her, and she has to decide by herself she's going to fight, and she's going to do the right thing, and that's what she came for. And is it Steve Rogers she's with? Whoever.
No.
Yeah, Chris Pine.
Steve Trevor.
Steve Trevor. Okay, Chris Pine, that's great. I came here to fight, not to follow you through the trenches. And she goes out and, like, she frees that world, you know. And then by the time we get to, like, the stakes and, she's a god and she's the god killer and now there's this CGI guy, like those stakes aren't anything, you know what I mean? Those stakes don't carry that same weight because she has kind of completed her arc before then, and then, you know, it's like a speed walk to the CGI fight, you know. They don't even you know, to me it even felt more important when she confronted and killed the dude that was taking the stuff, you know, the stuff that made him super strong. You know, when she confronted and fought that guy, it felt more important because they built that guy up and we'd seen some stakes established with that guy. And then when they were like, oh no, look, the nerd dude is actually the god of war. No, I don't care about that.
Like,
I'm
if you wanted to make the stakes she was building towards, like, even if you want to call those the important ones from a character arc and everything, she got to those at that guy. Like, she just turned out to be wrong.
Right.
So from an audience perspective, when you get that moment of triumph and nothing happens, and then all of a sudden, like, the nerd guy shows back up, and he's like, well, you get to do it for real this time. Like, we've already got there. And now we're just sort of floating, and now we just have to do it again with the CGI tornado demon.
Right.
You know? So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because there was no, like, personal connection with that. It was just, like, I had to go fight a stranger, and I fought a stranger. Yep. Oh, now I guess I have to fight another stranger.
Right.
Like, that was a total video game move. Like, oh no, a bigger stranger.
Yeah.
So,
it's not like the end boss. There's another end boss. Yeah.
For sure.
Dr. Wiley's going to turn into a big
right. I was just about to say, two Dr. Wileys.
Dr. Wiley.
Another Death Star.
Another Death Star.
But I do still think that Wonder Woman is the stronger movie for most of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Wonder Woman is by far the stronger character.
Because there is emotional connection through most of Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
It just fails a little bit at the end. Whereas this one, like, I mean, you could, you know, there's not no connection with this. It just pales in comparison with what you get in Wonder Woman. But it maintains its pace at every point.
Yep.
And at no point does it, like, I guess there's a lot of swerves or whatever you would call them. There's a lot of, like jumps and movements and changes and whatnot. But, like, at no point does the core of it, like, just reverse course or just stop and then try to restart or whatever. Yep. It's got logical progression. Wow, that's a weird phrase to put to this movie. But it really does have logical progression in its own world, you know, all the way up and through.
Talking about Aquaman, yes. It's a straight line.
Yeah.
It is, The other final thing I have to add about it, I've seen Aquaman twice. I've seen Into the Spider-Verse 3 times.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
Man.
Yep.
So good. I've seen it twice and Aquaman once.
I see new things every time I watch Into the Spider-Verse. New things, new little, you know, this little thing or that little thing, or man, I didn't notice that the first time or the second. I did not notice anything new the second, and I was looking. You know what I mean? Like I liked Aquaman the first time I saw it. So when I went in the second time, like I was looking for other stuff. There's nothing.
No,
that movie is 3 inches deep.
It's not a movie of nuance.
No, not at all.
No. But it's just, like I said, my deal right there is I've been saying that about every DC movie that came out. Like, there's a lot of things I can nitpick about a lot of movies that I don't.
Yep.
When I hammer all of the DC movies as hard as I can. And ultimately what it boils down to is if I'm enjoying myself, I'm not looking for things to dislike.
Yeah.
There's probably a ton of them in Aquaman, but I was enjoying myself too much to care for most of that movie.
That's totally what it boils down to for me, too. I mean, like, it's so goofy and so stupid, and I was just having so much fun, and so I was into it. I was digging it, and the visuals were great, and man, I don't know. It was just a fun movie for me.
Yep.
So sometimes that's all I need. That is all I need with these things sometimes. I didn't check. How's it doing? Do we know how well it's performing? Like, is it...
I saw that commercial that every movie gets that says,
Oh, yeah,
this movie is the number one in the movie, in the country,
every movie,
in the world, whatever.
Every movie's number one.
I think it's past Justice League.
Oh, yeah?
I feel like.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to get another one of these?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's going to be another Aquaman? And it really...
I'm not positive about that, but I'm almost certain I saw that as like a headline somewhere or something.
Okay.
Like that, so.
Well, I'm curious to see what this does to their what's the word I'm looking for?
Like going
Reboot.
forward.
Going
Their
forward.
plans.
I'm looking forward to seeing how this affects their plans with the movies.
Kind of bums
Are we
me
gonna
out.
get? Are we
Kind
gonna?
of bumps you out.
Are we gonna get a cinematic universe where Wonder Woman and Aquaman are like the focal points?
Oh my god!
Fine with it
These
at
are the
this
two
point.
that make all the money.
I
so
tell you
they're
what,
obviously-
like here's an unprecedented.
time to retire Batman and
Here's
Superman.
an unprecedented idea that'll never work. But if they just like pretended Wonder Woman was their first and only movie, and then Aquaman
built
came
up
next,
from there,
and then just build up from there, you know, and like
well,
just retcon the letter from Bruce and stuff out of Wonder Woman, and just give us a brand new Superman and Batman going forward from here. Like it's dirty and it'll never happen, but I'd be fine with it at this point.
Mara brought up to him the whole mother box thing, right?
Yeah.
Like there was one throwaway line about him.
Well, like I said, like those movies are technically interconnected.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I would be fully on board if they just decided to ignore that, because we've seen sequels that just decided to ignore like
Yeah,
scenes
for sure.
from first ones before.
Yeah.
So if they just come up and they're like, "Hey, we're brand new friends. We just met. Who's this guy? He's big and blue and he's got an S. What's he do?" Cool. Whatever. Run with it.
Why not at this
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, they could always explain it away with the Flashpoint
They,
thing, right?
Well,
Weren't
they
gonna do
don't
that?
even have to introduce him. They could just like a totally different Superman could just be in the next movie, and they could pretend it was normal. I'd be fine with that.
well, yeah. I mean, well,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, that's the precedent, though. We're all spoiled by the Marvel movies because they have Disney money to make sure that their actors don't change. But, you know, the precedent is that let's make a sequel. Well, we can only get this one actor back. So?
Yeah. No, yeah, you're
know?
right. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, as long as they're making good, fun movies.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
super don't care.
Exactly.
We'll see. I'll be shocked.
We'll see. No, you're right. You're right. This doesn't really change much. But I had fun watching it. And
Well, I will say that the two movies that, to my knowledge, the studio hasn't cared enough to meddle in have been the two good ones.
Yeah.
So
that's
maybe they'll learn from that.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing of overprotecting Superman and Batman, right?
Yeah.
for sure.
You know,
That's for
"Oh,
sure
We
what
can't
it
do
is."
that. We gotta have this, and don't make sure they don't do that, and blah. Blah. Who cares about Wonder Woman or Aquaman? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously everybody, but
Yeah. Well, they had like no faith in Wonder Woman, right? Wasn't
Right.
that the whole
Yeah,
thing?
they didn't care
They
about
were like,
Wonder Woman at all.
just do whatever you want because there's no
Yeah.
way this is gonna matter. And then boom, it was
Yeah.
their most successful movie.
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
same thing with Aquaman.
Yeah, now
Whatever.
Aquaman's done the same thing. That's amazing. You see that, guys? Do you see that?
Hire talented filmmakers and then leave them alone.
Yeah, let them do their
It's a
thing.
solid
Let
theory.
them tell
Hey,
stories.
so what about when if they do a Justice League movie when Darkseid shows up and he has to fight an actual god and somebody who has a kaiju on call, like what does that do for him? Like, does he just leave? He goes, you know what? Keep Earth.
I mean,
Yeah,
Thanos showed up and
we
fought
had-
an actual god.
We had
and-
contingency plan and lost.
Well, that's
Yeah, and he totally got axed in the chest.
yeah.
Never fought me
Should have
twice.
went for the head.
I was gonna say, well, we had a contingency plan for Wonder Woman, but then a Kraken showed up, so we boned out.
Nobody said. also, Thor as a god is not like Wonder Woman as a god, okay? Because
Yeah.
like Wonder Woman was just straight up like throwing lightning and ignoring. I mean, she was like Zeus's daughter, you know.
Yeah.
Thor flew and had an axe.
As opposed to Odin's son.
Well,
I mean, he threw lightning in the new movie.
That's true.
In Infinity War, he threw lightning.
He threw
but
lightning.
he just got
he
the
threw
lightning.
He threw lightning in Ragnarok too.
Yeah, well, that's when he first got the lightning.
But we also,
right?
but see
Well,
that
he's
okay.
never
So
fought
see
me.
that's
Yeah,
the
he has.
thing.
Well, he's never fought me twice.
See but that's another like success, right? Because so the whole point is that when we get to the end and Wonder Woman shows up, you know, and oh, Wonder Woman's actually a god, she just obliterates another god.
Yeah.
Thor, when he decided to be a god, he hit her with the biggest lightning bolt in the history of lightning, and it did nothing. So like right away we established that he's super powerful. He's not omnipotent, you know. Like they did not establish what they established with Wonder Woman.
They did give him the hero's build in that Avengers movie, though.
Yeah,
like, when he showed up, it was like the day had been saved. You know?
Sure. And he still chopped somebody in the chest with an axe. He didn't come in and just obliterate, you know, like just floating around and.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like there's those boundaries established. That's the problem with what.
Like that's the problem with the storytelling aspect of it, though.
Which is what I'm saying, bro.
The other problem with Wonder Woman's Act 3 is you get to that and go, why do any of these other movies exist?
And this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. And now the same thing with Aquaman, because like he showed up on that Kraken that apparently does his business, you know, his bidding with the trench. So not only does he have a Kraken, he has an army of fish monsters that everybody else, all the other fish monsters are scared of. Yeah. Okay. So like, you know, really, what happens when Darkseid shows up? I'm gonna Omega beam you. No, Kraken and fish monsters. Are we done here?
Kraken and fish monster. This is my
and then Wonder Woman shows up and then Wonder Woman shows up and she's like, oh hey, I heard there was a problem here. Darkseid's just like, what is that? An actual god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman shows up and starts taking care of business, and then Superman runs in and is like, I got this, calm down. And just murders himself.
I'll sacrifice myself and save everyone. No, Clark, really, you don't have to.
He gets shot with the Omega beams.
Yeah.
I'm out of here, guys. Yeah. Sorry about your Superman. I don't need to fight a Kraken.
Yeah, I think it all would have been forgiven with Batman versus Superman if he had sacrificed himself to Doomsday and they cut back to Batman and he'd just been like, works every time.
Well, solve my problem. Oh man, DC. All right, well, I think this is a good place to roll into the fan questions segment of the podcast.
I forgot we still had that.
Yep, we got some questions to answer.
To be real honest with you,
just a couple of them.
I'm excited.
All right, so few questions that are kind of a mix of everything. So this will be a lot of fun. So our first question comes from Amber, who is actually your niece, Jonathan. She listens to the show.
I know.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Nope.
So shout out.
I get texts every Wednesday. So
really?
Thanks for listening. So not every other Wednesday, I guess.
So her question is, have you guys gone to any scary movies on Christmas? And she specifically points out since Black Christmas, because I'm fairly positive I haven't.
So a little backstory for that.
And
there's more to
that's why I thought this would be fun to bring up.
Yeah, because we totally went to see Black Christmas on the Christmas that it came out.
Yep, Christmas Day 2006.
Yeah, and our theater had a shooting at it.
Yeah. Oof.
So, not like a mass shooting. Like our theater had a couple of idiots who got into a pissing contest, and one of them had a gun.
Yes.
So like no one died.
Right, but it scared everybody out of every other theater, and the whole building cleared and was running around, and people were freaked out, which. Yeah. Understandably, you know, I'm not like, you know, I'm just saying, understandably.
Well, I just wanted to I just wanted to clarify, like, it wasn't like a tragedy as far as
definitely important to
didn't
bring
make
up.
National news.
Right.
I feel like somebody took a slug, but like I think it was one of the idiots, and the rest of them were like a couple of shots that went into the air or something like that. So there wasn't like a lot of like catastrophic damage by any means, but it was a theater shooting that chased everybody out of the building.
Yeah.
So I haven't been back to a scary movie on Christmas since then.
Yeah.
But the next year I was, you know, like not because of that.
Yeah.
The next year I was engaged and had family movies to go to, and then I was married and had and family Christmas to go. You know what I mean? Like
Christmas Day openings have always been kind of big too, though. But there was a long stretch there where there was like the big holiday movie or the big family movie, and then there was like that little weird fringe movie that sometimes they were scary, sometimes
for everybody who didn't like Christmas.
But but it was like there would be that one terrible movie, and I don't know. I mean, I'd have to go back and check, year by year, but I don't feel like that happens every year now.
I was gonna say
there's not that low budget throw off that there used to be.
No, yeah, you're totally right, because I feel like that was always a thing, like opening Christmas Day. I don't feel like I remember the last time there was like a movie advertised that way.
Because we had a string, we were going every Christmas to something on Christmas Day, and we were intentionally picking the worst movie we could find to go see, and those sort of dried up, so coincidental. But yeah, we haven't really been around since that, I don't believe.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of that story, though, was still Jaron and our friend Billy went. They steered into the skid on that when they actually went up like into the lobby area as that was happening, and then everybody was freaking out more, so they dove into another theater. And when you're walking to a theater, you pull the door towards you, and then you walk in, and it closes behind you. Well, as people were panicking inside that theater, somebody was trying to throw the trash cans down in front of the door so they couldn't be opened, even though they opened the other way.
No, for sure. Oh, no.
So it was totally Big Lebowski'd.
Yeah.
In the middle of that.
That's totally bonkers.
And then the other best part of that, and we're totally getting into things that probably nobody but us cares about, but there was a deal where at one point, while helping some friends move, there was this basically this stair railing had come off of these stairs, and Jaron had put it into their stuff and moved it into their house for them, and they found it a couple of days later or whatever. And so this practical joke came to be. They were like, "All right, well, we're going to give it back to Jaron one day," and they knew he was going to be at this movie, so they were driving there, and at the time he usually kept his car unlocked, so they were just going to put it in the back seat of his car and then drive away, and that was going to be the whole thing. And they turned into the shopping complex where the theater was, and there's just police cars everywhere, lights going and all that stuff. And so they basically turned in, and they're like, we hope everybody's okay, and we'll do this joke another day.
It also wouldn't have worked that day. I'd actually gotten dropped off. I didn't have my car that day.
Oh, man. So, got him.
Yep.
Maybe it was a trap.
But yeah, so no, I haven't. But
so the simple answer to your question is no.
but not because of that.
Yeah.
All right, our next question comes from listener Ryan Farr, who says, "Hey guys, love the show. My question is regarding He-Man in She-Ra. I was reading up the other day that originally the creator said He-Man wouldn't appear because of the rights issues. However, now apparently she's saying He-Man can't appear simply because of the challenge it poses to include him into it. What do you guys think of this?" And in case you're not clear on the rights thing, there has always been a little bit of a, even though they exist in the same kind of universe, She-Ra was actually a separate license from He-Man. And there was a time, I think, where they were kind of split apart. But I think they're all under DreamWorks now, so I don't think it's quite as much of an issue anymore.
Rights issues always confuse me, but they never surprise me.
It's super weird,
right? And I think I've brought it up on the show before. I always go back to The Tick, because there was that Tick cartoon on Fox that used Deflator Mouse and American Made and all that stuff, and then stopped existing. And then a couple of years later, there was a Tick live action show on Fox that used the Tick and Arthur and all the main characters, but couldn't use Deflator Mouse and American Made, so they had to reinvent those characters as Batman and I can't remember American Made's new name, but Captain Liberty or something like that. I want to say, that. But it was clearly the same characters, but they had to change everything, and it was because of some weird rights issue. And it's all right, you're the same network. You're making the same main characters. How do you not own the side characters also? And I still don't understand it, but that's the reason I'll never be surprised by someone going, well, we just don't have the rights to them. Okay.
So please explain it to John in the comments. Don't worry about length. We need full detail.
Full details
in
on
the
why
comments.
This is a thing. So, I mean, this is easily one of those things where people immediately brought it up. Well, if you're doing a She-Ra, where's He-Man? Where's He-Man? You can't do She-Ra without He-Man. But I think the intent of this was to do She-Ra without He-Man, to kind of give She-Ra her own show, her own way to stand alone. And when we reviewed the show, we kind of talked about how they did a pretty good job of still acknowledging that Eternia definitely still exists, acknowledging that the power of Grayskull is definitely still a thing. So I believe that they have it set up so that He-Man does exist in this universe. Whether or not they're going to use him, I don't know. Nor do I really know if they need to use him for the way they've already set this up. Also, if we're still talking about rights stuff the way it is, I know that Mattel really, really, really wants to get that He-Man movie made. And I think that if they can help it, they're going to save him for that specifically. And they're going to want She-Ra to be her own thing outside of that because they want He-Man to have a live-action movie.
Yeah.
So those are kind of two different things, I think, but they're going to cause the same...
Correct me if I'm wrong, but even with the old cartoons, like they existed as offshoots of each other. She was introduced through that movie, correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then, like when her show came about, I mean, like He-Man didn't show up every other episode or anything.
Like every third episode.
He was there. He was there quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
Because He-Man's show had ended. But he just showed up in that show a lot. I mean, like, She-Ra's show felt like a continuation of He-Man's show, just with new characters.
I was I knew he would come in, but I was thinking it was more like like once a season or something like that. It was its own show that they just happened to keep reminding you was adjacent.
Yeah. Well, I would have thought that too, had you asked me before I just rewatched it.
Yeah.
Because that show is for sure like the first 5 or 6 episodes are just Secret and the Sword, and He-Man's the star of those.
Yeah.
Then there's like another 5-6 episodes that's all She-Ra before he comes back, but then he comes back for one, and then he's back about every third show.
Okay. Now, that doesn't necessarily...
At least through what I watched. I didn't watch to the end.
I'm about to get started on those again because my daughter's been wanting to watch the other She-Ras. Yeah.
Good luck.
But it doesn't necessarily change my point of what... I mean, like, it would be pretty easy for them to do it the other way, though. Like, they could easily introduce He-Man, give him his own offshoot show, and never correlate the two. Like, from a... I don't agree with or accept, or however you want to say it, the second part of the question there as fact, because... If the creator's saying, well, we can't really do He-Man because it's too challenging to include him in this universe, you could totally do him for a few episodes and then never talk about him again.
That doesn't make sense to me. That I don't see what challenges that would pose because you could just do the story slightly backwards from the way it was the first time.
Yeah, exactly. And then not bring him back every third episode.
Yeah, and then if you wanted to spin off and make a He-Man show that's done in a similar style, I'd actually kind of like to see that, to be honest.
I think it'd be neat. But you don't have to make by introducing He-Man, you don't have to make it to where like She-Ra's like the little cousin. You know, like she can still be the focus of her own show. Pretty easily.
I think the main challenge of the show of integrating him would be adapting him to the lore that they built with, like, because there's been all these She-Ras and all these, so then you have to say, well, there's been all these He-Men and and people aren't going to like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't like it for She-Ra. They're definitely not going to like it for He-Man.
Well,
so. And I can see, where you're talking about, like, Mattel going, when they're like, oh, I can't stop you from doing that with She-Ra. There's one He-Man. There's always been one He-Man. There will only ever be one He-Man.
Now, it's weird, though, that you say that, though, because, like, for anybody that collects the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, which is, like, the modern toy line, they've got little bios on the back of the packages that kind of tells a story, and they've kind of established in those bios that there have been multiple He-Men. There have been multiple men that have the title of He-Man, but that Adam himself is kind of like the chosen one. Like, he is like the one that's gonna, like, he's friggin' the guy that's gonna bring balance to the force or whatever. You know what I mean? Okay. Like, it's the same thing. And a lot of people reacted kind of negatively to that when it came out too. Like, I don't even know if I really like that very much. Like, I like the idea of He-Man being the one.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, they could do that. Like, it's not what I mean by bringing that up is it's not completely out of the question that they could say that He-Man's lineage is the same as She-Ra's lineage, just different.
I mean, I gotta say that makes more sense to me, though, personally. If we've got this super powerful magic sword, but it's only ever worked awesome for Prince Adam, like, well, it's not. That's a dumb sword. But
everything
if everybody who gets this sword is the defender of the universe
everything
or whatever.
you're describing to me is making it sound more like Buffy, so I'm in.
Yeah, there you go. Totally. Yeah, multiple Slayers. There's for every generation there'll be one Slayer. Yeah, there you go.
So can we? Can we get a bunch of He-Man? Can we like break the sword and start handing out pieces of it?
Oh no!
Everybody who's a possible everybody who's a possible He-Man is now a full He-Man.
Amazing. All right, well, that's going to bring us to the final question, which comes from listener Fiona Kate, bringing it to the wrestling stuff, saying, Royal Rumble 2019, any thoughts on the direction you'd like to see creative go? What's the over-under on how long R-Truth and Carmella will last in the Rumble matches after each starting in their 30th respective spot?
How long's the dance break? 7 seconds?
Yeah.
So 10 seconds.
Yeah. That's what they're there for, right?
Over under.
That's what they're there for.
I bet Carmella gets more time than R-Truth. R-Truth is for sure going to be there for a dance break, and then somebody's throwing him out. Yeah. Carmella, I don't know. I could see her I could see her doing something.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
I think R-Truth is going to win it all.
Not doing something. Carmella's not going to win or anything, but.
Well, you just meant like lasting a while.
Yeah.
Actually
fight some people instead of just do a dance break and then get thrown out.
I don't have. I haven't been watching regularly since like last Mania, so I'm way behind, and I've been starting to catch up. And it was shortly after I read this question earlier today that I actually turned TLC on, because when I read this question, I went, "Is R-Truth back?" I don't remember him he's back enough to where he can win the 30th spot. What is going on? And then at the very beginning of TLC is when they did that whole bit. So I was like, okay, well, apparently R-Truth is 30. I did read that right.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not in a position to say how long I think it's going to last, because I can't name 10 other people who are going to be in the Rumble off the top of my head.
Feel that.
Until I get more back into it. But I would tend to agree with you guys, knowing what I know about wrestling in general. Seems like a very gimmicky spot to put these guys in, and there's probably just going to be a little bit of schlock that goes down.
Yeah.
And then the end. So I don't picture either of them being huge contenders in their respective Rumbles.
So are both Rumbles then for sure like for title shots at Mania? Like if they've already confirmed that? Like I know sometimes that's kind of iffy if they're doing that.
Not for a long time.
I guess it's been that way for a while, but I just you never know.
It'd be big news if they changed that.
So do you have any predictions? Has there been anybody that you've been leaning towards taking the win on either of those?
Is Ronda Rousey the champ?
Ronda Rousey is his champ.
She's still a champ on Raw, but
I think Becky Lynch
is going to take the win.
I think Becky Lynch is going to take it and challenge Ronda, and we're going to get them at Mania.
Do you think it'll be just her and Rousey, or do you think they're going to work Charlotte in too, so it's a triple threat?
No, I don't think they'll do a triple threat.
No?
I think we'll see.
That's going to be main event, dude. Rousey and Lynch. That's gonna be main event of Mania.
I'd be all in for that.
Becky Lynch is their biggest star.
You know what though? She's for sure their biggest star. Here's the thing that's sad about that is they don't care what's main event anymore.
Well, I mean,
they don't care.
Been that way for
they
a while,
don't care.
Right?
They don't care about anything anymore.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like they just
that is sad.
No, that's look. Vince McMahon came out. Vince McMahon. Who is in the middle of reviving the XFL, had to walk out on Monday Night Raw, call out his immediate family, and apologize to the fans because they are doing such a bad job at making wrestling right now. That's a thing that just happened.
Yeah, it was
and it's because they haven't cared. They've got the network, so they can put whatever on for however long they want, and who cares what happens? They did. People were walking out of the WrestleMania main event 2 years ago.
Was it? It was the Lesnar Reigns one, right?
Reigns. Well, I don't. That was just this year, right? Reigns. You could see when Reigns when Reigns wrestled Triple H. Yeah. You could see the crowd clearing out. By the time they got to the end of that match, the stands were emptied out. It was,
because Manias have been starting at like 3 and ending at like 11:45.
Yeah. They don't care. Just get it all on there. They don't care what order it goes in. They don't put any. I don't think they put any thought into it. Maybe they put a little thought into. They put thought into who's the main guy.
Yeah.
You know, how are we going to make Roman Reigns look awesome? That's what they've been putting thought into. How are we gonna showcase Lesnar? That's what they've been putting thought into.
Yeah.
They don't care who's main event. They don't care when they go on.
Because an 8-hour Mania, when you can go and watch any match at any point, anytime you want, is 8 hours of content for your network. They've lost sight of the fact that it's a terrible wrestling show to sit through.
Yeah. Well, it's that, and it's because also they're more worried about their advertisers and it's all the money stuff.
Sponsors and investors.
It's more about making those people happy than it is about putting on a good wrestling show these days.
And those people care about a bottom line. They don't care about who's in the main event. So to bring that back full circle, could I see Becky and Ronda going as the main event for Mania this year? Yes, I could. Is that because they deserve it? I wish I could say it was, because they definitely do. Because Ronda has showed up and just owned it, and Becky is the man. Yeah. You know, Becky's amazing right now. But if they go on main event, it's not because they've earned it as much as it's because we're in a period where they don't care right now. Yeah. And I think that's
because they want to be able to say, look what we did. We put, the women's match on main event.
Right. Yeah. Yes. That's the other thing. Yeah.
Like, as a wrestling fan, I would rather see that match at 9:15.
Yep.
No matter how many matches are behind it, because by 11:30, even watching it on TV, I'm tired.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. Like, I'm going to sit through it to get through it, but I'm not invested in it anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, think about what that's like as a performer. Sitting backstage at our shows.
Yeah.
For 2 hours, waiting for to go out in the main event. Sitting backstage in a huge arena. Waiting 8 hours and then trying to stay up and then go out and wrestle. No,
and by
you're not turning your best
8
performance.
Or 8:30, watching the audience start to dwindle.
Yeah,
that would be so disheartening. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing I've not been able to get my head around over the last few years of wrestling. Triple H. Mm-hmm. Triple H was in the ring as the audience was clearing out, wrestling Roman Reigns, looking around, and Triple H wasn't sitting there going, man, this is so awesome, bro, we're doing great, come on, hit me with the thing, can you believe how awesome this is? Triple H is sitting there going, he's got to, he's sitting there watching the crowd leave, going, they're leaving. No, they're not. You know what I mean? And then you come back, and how do you not look at what's going on and be like, guys, I was just out there, and people are leaving. They're walking away.
Right. Well, especially because we're certain that H is like super smart when it comes to being a wrestling mind. I mean, NXT is his baby, and it's the best wrestling that we can watch on a TV show right now. So it's pretty amazing to see exactly that right there, and it really does kind of make you realize how he really does have to answer still to the boss and to the investors and all that stuff, and he just has to he kind of has to just go with the flow on that stuff. It seems like, which is a shame.
Yeah,
that's a shame.
Well, he's got it. That's his next great challenge, is learning that bridge.
Yeah. So with the men's rumble, do you have any thoughts on who you think's gonna go? I was thinking Seth Rollins was going to be a push. Drew McIntyre? Ooh.
Drew McIntyre.
Ooh. That could be fun.
Dude, watching him right now is like watching Daniel Bryan in 2004 and 2005.
That's exciting.
And watching Stone Cold in 96.
Yeah.
He is performing at a level above everybody else, and he is showing up every moment he is out there, and he is not, even some of these guys that have gone out in the last few years, Seth Rollins, I don't feel like Seth Rollins shows up every night. Mm-hmm. When Seth Rollins shows up, it's hard to hold his socks up.
Yeah.
But, when he's just there, or when he's in a three-way, or when he, whatever. Kevin Owens. Everybody liked Kevin Owens. I hate Kevin Owens, but everybody liked Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, I don't feel like he ever showed up. They did the little 365 with him where he was like, oh, I'm going to the top. And I'm like, not with that match. not with not with that promo. And then he got all disheartened and was like, "Well, I'm here and I love being a part of the company and I'm just excited to be part of the company, so I'm living my dream, yay!"
Mrs. Jericho, dude.
I'm like, well,
Mrs. Jericho, yeah.
But Drew McIntyre is delivering on another level, I think, and they're doing little things with him. Like he's been kind of the main heel, not the main heel, but he's been like right there. They have not had him back down from Braun Strowman, not once. He gets in Braun Strowman's face. He's taken Braun Strowman out a couple times. You know what I mean? Like his little kick, that's his thing. And Braun Strowman goes down and sells for him. That's not. That's a signal. That's a sign that they're looking at something.
Yeah, totally.
As a guy who's getting back into the swing of the storylines and everything, that is not the conversation I expected to be having tonight. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So I assumed when you said Drew McIntyre at first, they're like I was missing a rib somewhere.
No, man. When they had Drew McIntyre, and years ago, they didn't really know what to do with him. They let him go. He went to the Indies and started making waves on the Indies, and then they brought him back at NXT. Mm-hmm. When I saw him show up at NXT, and they're like, "Oh, he's back," and "Oh my gosh, he's been doing this and that on the Indies." Oh my, and I've been hearing about him on the Indies, but I didn't see him or anything. So I was watching when he came back, and right away I was like, "I don't see it. What I don't, it's not here." He wears a long vest now. I don't get the character. I don't get it. Now he's on Raw, man, and like I get it, and then I see it, and he's delivering it, and I think they see it, and I think they know what they're doing with it. I think I think they would make him a huge star if they let him take Lesnar.
Oh man,
if he's the one, because he's big enough.
Yeah,
he's big enough. They're letting him work strong enough. He's not working like an indie style, Mm-hmm. I'm a huge fan of Finn Balor. I like the way Finn Balor works. He does not work like Finn Balor. You know what I mean? He works really well, but he is doing something different, and it's something that I think Vince McMahon looks at and goes, "This kid's got it." I see it.
Hey, Vince already gave his seal of approval on Drew McIntyre a long time ago, remember? Oh, yeah. That was his guy. Yeah. That was his chosen one.
This is the chosen one.
Well, when Royal Rumble rolls around, we already have plans to do an episode on the Royal Rumble because we're going to be getting together and watching it that day and then recording right after. So you guys will get to hear our full thoughts on the entire show once that happens.
Which will be great because the Royal Rumble is going to end at 12:20.
Oh, we're going to be so tired. Yeah. We're going to be beats. But we're going to power through.
Tired. We'll be all tired and full of apple juice.
Yeah. Yep. Most likely. All right.
So many apples.
So many apples. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to bring us to the end of the show today. But before we go, we got to remind you guys that, hey, the Geek Easy podcast is available on multiple sources to listen to. We started putting up videos of every episode on our YouTube channel. So if you are a video person, be sure to head on over to YouTube, type in the Geek Easy podcast, and subscribe to our channel. We would really appreciate it. If you guys prefer the audio versions, we are available on pretty much all of those platforms. We're on iTunes, we're on Google Play, we're on Stitcher, we're on the Podbean app. So give us a follow or a like or give us a rating, all that good stuff to help us spread the word on the show.
Yep. Yeah, if you guys like the show, the best way you can help us out really is that subscribe button and some sort of review if you want to put it out there. Be honest with those, especially if you like us. But you throw that stuff out there, and that's the way things like this start to grow, and that's the way we get noticed, and that's the way we get better listeners and start putting on more shows and all that stuff. So take that seriously. Hit those buttons, assuming you like us.
Yeah.
And we appreciate everybody who takes the time to.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, we're also on Facebook. So we always try to give everybody a heads up before we're about to record a new episode, and we ask for our fan questions there over on the Facebook page. So just do a search for the Geek Easy Podcast. You'll find us. We're the first result that pulls up. Hit that like button to follow the page, and that way you won't miss out on what we're doing, what we're recording, and funny pictures like John on the junior poster.
It's amazing. You have any idea how happy I was?
Which we have to give a shout out to our friend and listener Jacob for doing that.
Yes, a shout out.
Jacob is my favorite person this holiday season.
Yeah.
When I opened my Facebook and saw that, I laughed for 20 minutes.
He picked the perfect pictures too, because like even the picture he chose of John just looks very upset to be on that poster. Yay! And this is 2 episodes in a row.
Yes,
we get to end with laughing at John and Junior. So
great.
We get to end John's 2018 with
Thanks.
Junior.
Thanks,
and we
Internet.
get to begin John's 2019 with Junior.
mission accomplished, everybody. Mission accomplished.
Harumph.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Take care, my friends.
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of the Geek Easy Podcast.